Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. It's 6:01. I apologize for being just a few minutes late. Pension board meeting. Do we have this in the ranch? Yeah, no, we have it correct. Oak Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors Special Pension Board meeting. And we'll call it to order at 6:01. And as we always do, well, actually, before we start, I'm going to ask all my fellow directors and public at large to understand that this is a public forum where there is the need for decorum and respect. I will reiterate that if it's necessary, but our goal here is to look after the better interest of the Oak Creek Fire Protection District and to behave in a manner that we can do so. With that in mind, I will now ask, why don't we have our PIO lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. All right. I see all of our board members present, so we will consider that a roll call. Any additions or deletions for the special meeting agenda, special pension meeting agenda? Give you a second just to look over it. Any additions or deletions? Last time, additions, deletions? We will accept the agenda as presented and go into our only item of business. And that's to discuss the pension bylaws that have been presented to us. And I know that we have had an exchange of emails. I will open it up for a discussion in terms of additions to the bylaw. And perhaps, why don't we start this and ask our counsel, Mr. Camille, just to give a basis for everybody's understanding of how this process works. And we're going to adjust, which is basically our Bible, the bylaws, in terms of how the pension board is going to work. John, could you just give us a quick down and dirty, and for perhaps people that are in the audience that haven't been here before?
Absolutely. Good evening, board. So the pension board is governed by bylaws. Essentially, those are the procedural rules governing how the pension board operates and makes decisions. It was brought to the pension board's attention about 4 or 5 months ago now that the last iteration of the current bylaws was last approved in 2012. So it was the proper time to take a look at any needed updates. There were some that came from the volunteer members themselves, and there were some that were just necessary legal updates for kind of bringing the pension bylaws into accordance with some of the legal changes like meeting notice, etc. So ultimately, we went through a review process. The membership and myself both reviewed the bylaws, proposed changes. They were ultimately put before the pension board at the last pension board meeting. And it was noted procedurally that currently under the amendment process, there's a 2-meeting proposal process for amending the pension board bylaws. And so this special meeting was called to follow that procedure and provide for clarity in what the proposed amendment bylaws would be. Ultimately, then they'll be up for approval at the next pension board meeting.
All right, perfect. I did not send an email out, but I would like to start with just one addition. I know that we had an opportunity to look at some others, but it is my belief as a member of this board that our trustees need to be eligible or retired pension members. And I would ask my board members and my fellow trustees to consider adding that component into the bylaws. And I'll speak on that because I don't feel that it's relative for somebody that is not going to benefit for this very important opportunity for our members that have served the public for so long to speak on behalf of those that have. So my thought is that in the bylaws, it should be dictated that we have those members eligible to be trustees on the pension board, only those that are either eligible to receive the pension or currently receiving the pension, as in terms of a retiree. Cole, it looks like you're taking notes, and I would hope that there might be some discussion on that or some agreement. And I speak in behalf of that because I don't think it's really for somebody to be speaking on behalf of somebody that has earned this benefit. Yes, sir.
Director Bixley, point of clarification, you're talking about the firefighter members, the 2 firefighter members.
The trustee's position, that's correct, sir.
Right, so by definition, the 5 board members are also trustees as well.
So thank you for the clarification. I'm referring to the 2 elected trustee positions.
Right.
Referring to those positions that Kevin Devaney and Cole Dean are sitting in right now. And how we write that, Mr. Camille, in such a way that defines those 2 specific positions, I think we'll use his legal expertise to be able to provide that for us.
If I may?
Yeah.
I thought about this a lot because in reading the bylaws, there is some inherent confusion as to what is allowed, who is allowed to sit the seat, and who is considered eligible. And I actually feel the opposite.
Okay.
I feel like with the limited as the number of eligible pension holders or retirees that hold a pension is reducing over time, but yet the longevity of the plan will most likely outlast a lot of their active participation with the district. I think we run the risk of putting ourselves in a position where we do not have an appropriately staffed trustee board. I feel like the existing membership members, the firefighter members who aren't eligible, it is almost a discredit and a disservice to them that they would not act in the best interest of their brethren. So I personally do not think it is a good idea to limit who can participate that strictly. Perhaps setting it so that one of the trustees has to be either pension eligible or retired receiving pension, and one can be from the fire membership at large, would maybe be a compromise to that situation. But having had to staff district boards and committee boards and a variety of different board level seats, the more restrictive you make it, the harder it is to fill that position. And I think we're going to get to a place, because if I'm, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, and you guys can clarify for me, according to Pam, this pension is going to go out in excess of 2050 into 2060 on a conservative estimate. Is that correct, Jake?
Yes.
Without looking at it fairly certainly,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yes.
So I think you would be hamstringing yourself to create that level of restriction. That's my opinion.
Mr. Camille, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to note that in that Article 3, where they talk about the bylaws discuss the organization of the Pension Board of Trustees, it's specified, what the board is made up of. So as Director Newby specified, the 5 district board directors and then 2 trustee positions. They're intended to be alternating yearly positions. Those qualifications come directly from statute.
Okay.
So
So we don't give it to us.
yeah, so the eligible volunteer component, those 2, the number 1 and 2 in Article 3, come directly from the statute. Actually, the vast majority of that language is pretty much lifted from the Volunteer Firefighter Pension Act. So I would say that in that sense, it wouldn't be appropriate to expressly limit the eligibility, given that statutorily they're eligible. I think you could probably communicate it in a way or talk about maybe kind of recruitment effort of kind of the intent being that it would be an eligible member, but ultimately I think as Director Devaney pointed out, a lot of times if you limit eligibility, it's just harder to fill a position. What you don't want is a vacant position in lieu of someone who's willing to be engaged. So I think in that sense, I would recommend considering it more as kind of a recruitment or maybe a policy goal as opposed to an actual eligibility change.
Well, dang it, John, why didn't you just say that in the first place?
And with
That was
that in
all the
mind-
brains I got tonight, that was it.
With that in mind, I rescind my request, and I appreciate the clarification.
Absolutely.
With that in, oops, sorry.
No, go ahead.
With that in mind, John, is there a way that we can clarify that language in there? Because as Kevin and I can attest, we interpreted it very differently last night
Okay.
as we were reading the bylaws.
As far
I
as
took it to mean all eligible volunteers. He took it to mean only pension eligible.
okay,
So is there a way that we can,
I think
I know it's statute language,
Mhm.
but is there a way that we can,
Would that be a cut and paste from the statute?
we could probably add that clarification in the definition section
Okay.
in Article 2 because it has active retired volunteer as a specific definition, but we can probably clarify that by actually adding a definition for volunteer firefighter, and then that'll track within that reference in the bylaws.
Okay.
And we can do that directly out of the statute as well.
thank you. Never mind.
Okay, and then let's go to the other recommendation. You want to start, Kev, or?
That was my point of clarification. Eligible or pension eligible? That's the only thing I had.
Sorry.
No. Colt, did you have anyone?
No.
Okay, and then Chuck, you had some stuff that you
Yes,
wanted to address.
I had a couple items here that I think, some were comments that are just in regard to the member handbook, we got that clarified. Let's see here. In regard to the treasurer, creating an annual budget, that was stricken. I think an annual budget is probably a good practice. So I would unstrike that provision where it was stricken out, that one sentence. It says, "The treasurer shall direct the preparation of an annual budget to be submitted to the pension board at its regular September meeting." I would keep that in.
I have a question. Is that referring to the pension board budget? Because they don't have a budget.
Right, and that's ultimately why it was stricken.
They don't.
Well, and that was a question that I had too. So what is the budget? So we have an entity managing the pension, right? But then we may have additional asks like a actuarial every year or every 2 years or some other budgeted item that we would want to put in a budget that would overlay whenever the managing entity's budget really is. I mean, they have a budget, an internal budget that they bill back to us or bill back to the plan. But I think it's a good practice for us to look forward each year to other items that it may.
What would you have in that?
Well, for example, at our last meeting, you had requested that we do an actuarial to see if we could adjust the pension benefit. We may want to do that every year, every other year, etc. So that would be a budgeted item, could go to zero, but I think, on a yearly basis, we ought to consider those kinds of items looking forward. So that would, that budgeting process would be an opportunity to do that.
I got something on that.
Yeah.
The actuarials are done every other year by the state. We pay a portion of that out of the budget, out of the monies that they've taken from us.
Yeah.
We paid into it, however you want to look at it. So we don't need a budget for that, it's already in there. And this one's special, but again, it comes out of that money that we've already paid. So the money's there, sitting there, waiting to be used.
Yeah.
Whether it be paid
Good.
for pensions or whether it be paid for an actuarial.
Could you speak up?
Where did I lose you?
It's kind of hard to hear.
The money's
Your
already
voice is
there.
very soft.
The money's already there in the account through the state that they pay us pensioners with. The actuarial report that is going to be done this year is going to be taken out of that. So again, we don't need the budget for that. It's already in there. The money's already in the state, and they pay some of it and we pay some of it.
Sure, I'll reiterate, I think budgeting for the pension board budgeting would be a good idea.
What
I'm not
else would
saying
you?
it's mandatory, but I think it'd be a good idea.
May I?
Treasurer. I would like to hear your opinion about this and the relevance of what Director Newby is suggesting.
Okay, so Kevin, you said that the money that the state pays the pension, right? They deduct the actuarial study from that
This one, and then yes, every other year
every other year,
it
not
gets
every,
deducted, but
every
we
other.
pay some of that and they pay some of that.
Right, so do we know what that is going to be? Do we know what the actuarial study is? In other
It's
words,
like
do we have a
2,000.
choice about whether we pay it or not? No.
No, every 2 years they do it. This is an off year, so we're paying, I think it's $2,000 or something about that. Well,
Yeah.
So it comes out of the pension funds?
correct, it comes out of
So
pension funds.
we have nothing to say about how much it is?
No, and again, they're paying some of it and we're paying some
We
of
pay
it.
some of it.
So
So
it's not, if we have a budget sitting here, it still comes out of that money.
I don't see a reason for the budget to tell you the truth.
Is there
It's
more?
a report.
Unless we provided the actuarials to ensure the budget is still sound, or the pension is still sound.
The state does.
We provided the actual.
Well, ensure that, because the way that this reads, a preparation of the annual budget, or where is it again? That we provide that at the regular meeting minutes, right? Preparation of the annual budget to be submitted to the pension board.
So
Is that nothing more than the actuarials to ensure that we are solid?
Yes.
I interpret it as the financial report. So every quarter, we get a financial report from the pension board that gets reported. It shows what the rates are, what the divesting was, what the payouts were, what the deposits were, what the state contribution is, and then what they've charged us in fees and assessments. We have absolutely no control over that.
So we just then change annual budget to financial report.
Yeah?
Because then there's
Because that's
oversight.
the only thing that there is.
Yeah.
Besides actuarials that come
Then
up.
we can
Yeah.
see.
Well, if there's
numbers.
anything else.
Yeah.
It would be like telling Nationwide we want their budget for, I just don't, I think the financial statement is what I would prefer to see.
So just change that to
Change the wording.
Financial
financial report.
So the treasurer shall direct the preparation of a financial report to be submitted to the pension board at its regular September meeting.
I think that would work.
Don't we get them
We do it
quarterly?
Yeah. We get the report.
We already get them
Change it to
quarterly.
quarterly.
Yeah.
Okay.
We make it them monthly, we
Including in
just
your bylaws
report.
what we're already doing.
And I would even go further to say that the treasurer shall direct the prepared financial reports to be submitted at the quarterly pension board meeting.
That makes sense.
Chuck, are you amenable to that?
That's good, perfect. I think the idea is just to, so that we track
Yeah.
quarterly what's going on. Yep. Okay,
I think we're good.
Number 3?
so then, the other one that I had was under Article 8 on page 10, my page 10, under pensions and payments. There is a paragraph there that there was some edit, and I'm not sure what the intent was, but it just doesn't read right. It says, if the fund ever becomes unaffiliated from the FPPA, the payment period, and then it goes on to talk about a warrant and so forth. There was some intention there that there was a missing edit or something. I'm not sure what the intent there was.
I apologize, Chuck, what?
So this, under Article 8, it says pensions and payments. And then the third sentence down in the first paragraph says, if the fund ever becomes unaffiliated from FPPA.
Oh, I see what you're saying now.
And it's a dangling
It's a dead
sentence.
sentence. The payment, it's right here. Are you seeing that
So
on
I can
page 10?
check on what John sent me.
Yeah, just,
I'll work with him to see what got missed from that. Because, yeah, I didn't catch that, so.
just whatever the intent was
Yeah.
there, yeah. And then down, I put in a provision that would have us communicate quarterly to each of the pension eligible members. I don't know exactly how to say that properly, but the idea here is to communicate to them, either through our website or through an email or maybe snail mail, what they're, essentially an individualized pension benefit summary. So for example, if you have a 401k, you may get a monthly statement, or you may get a quarterly statement, or you may get all of the above. The idea is that the pension needs to communicate with its members as to, where they're at, both in terms of eligibility, in terms of
Yeah,
what they're looking, their benefit is looking forward, any cost of living adjustments that are coming up and so forth, but that should be individualized to all of the
Chuck,
eligible members.
the state won't recognize you until you apply for it and you're at your 10 years or 20 years. So to give somebody at 6 years an idea of what they might get, and they quit and they don't have their 10 year, the state won't even recognize that.
Well, the complaint that I've heard, a substantial number of eligible, pension eligible and people that are in the plan say is that they don't know where they are.
It's because they're not in the plan.
benefits.
They're not in the pension. They're not in
Well, but they could be eligible in the future,
future.
right? But that should be communicated to them. I mean,
It is.
the idea
In 10
here,
years, you get your
the idea
pension.
here is that we want to make the pension benefit a draw for the volunteers. It's a benefit that they should understand on a quarterly basis. Go ahead.
so if I can explain, the pension is no longer an option for anybody after 2018. So there's that, it isn't a draw for anybody who didn't
Right.
sign up after 1/1 or 12/31/2018.
I believe it's 12/31.
So it's the
It's
2018
a 20
class?
yeah.
Okay.
2018, 2019 no longer eligible.
So once a eligible pensioner or a receiving pensioner is activated, they have access to their member access page, which I was actually just talking to Bethany with earlier today about figuring out a way to link that information onto the website. Because as a contributing entity, we don't have any control over their statements, nor would I personally want to. I can't speak for Jake, but I don't think it's a good idea for us to have any sort of viewing access to an individual's pension, that's their funds. So I think that what we could do and work with the PIO is to ensure that the access page and it hyperlinks over to the map site. And then as we get reports from them, we can put that up. But that communication goes straight from FFPA to the
the
actual
member.
pension
Right,
holders.
Right, yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
I mean, I guess we can
Yeah.
try to help make people aware,
Yeah,
but I think that would be the only level of involvement we would want to have. Because once we turn that money over to the state, that money belongs to the pensioner, not the fire department.
right. Yeah, the idea here is that the complaints that we heard was that there was a lack of communication in terms of eligibility, the benefits and so forth and so on. People just felt very, very disconnected
Okay.
from the plan.
People who are not collecting?
Well, there was a discussion with Director.
Yeah,
talking about it as an individual.
disconnected from the plan.
Is there?
And so there was the big ask was better communication. So to me, you know, that would be, where am I in the benefit, you know, in the plan? What are my benefits? What are my current benefits?
What am I
It's a-
anticipated
You
to?
know, so it's an effort here to do that. So
The
how
state
best to
sends
do
those
that,
out.
I'm not sure.
So, real quick, so to streamline the bylaws, we don't want to pigeonhole us. We want just to clarify that we provide, am I understanding you correctly, Director Newby, that we provide access to FPPA for individuals to find out. And that is a simple thing. We don't need to get into the weeds on this because as you are mentioning, this is private information. All we need to do is on the website is to provide the hyperlink for those members.
Yes.
Because everything else, and that's all we need to
Yeah.
do. This is not our responsibility as a board to get into that important. Yes, sir.
Just a suggestion, because just trying to make sure I understand your comments, Director Newby. Are you primarily talking about individuals that are not yet collecting a benefit,
Mainly those who are in the plan already,
that are collecting a
that
benefit?
are collecting now.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that's kind of confusion there to some degree, because if you're in it and you're collecting, that's when you would have the ability to just sign into and have your
Right.
own FPPA account. You'll get the statements that way.
Right.
The piece of information as far as kind of future-looking eligibility, because it's, you know, it's a defined benefit fixed by this board. You know, the benefit amount is set by this board. That's the, you know, one of the primary things you all have control over. So, I mean, as far as information goes, I don't know if it's on the website now or not, but, you know, you could certainly say a 20-year pension benefit is currently X dollars a month, a 10-year is 50% of that. You know, you could put that information out because that's just fixed. You know, it's not like a 401k where it's your amount's going to depend on how much you're putting in.
Right.
So you could always put that general information out. But yeah, as far as collecting, FPPA is the one that is in control of that information and does, I don't remember, I think it's potentially monthly,
It's quarterly, isn't
I
it?
get quarterly.
quarterly statements. So, I mean, they're already processing those. So I think the biggest thing is just that kind of the access point.
Yeah,
Maybe we
it's
can-
just a matter of putting the plan and the people together,
Mhm.
making that communication link.
So rather than put it into the bylaws, maybe we can work with Bethany and the PIO and create a scripting on the website for retirees. That has, the link has the current benefit amount, and maybe I'm sure that FPPA has
They put out statements.
some flash, well, not the statements, I mean, the flash material that this is how well we're doing, or this is their annual report. Putting a link to their annual report, just creating kind of a FAQ page for retirees.
Well, I want to put it in the bylaws as a duty that we have to the members.
The state does that. The state already sends out.
So what if we
But-
say,
Real quick, there was a discussion from the floor, and there was an individual that said that there are older participants that are unaware of some of this information. And I don't disagree that it would be very easy for us just to put in the bylaws that we continually provide direction and information to our retired members so that they can have information. And just keep it simple. Again, we cannot get in the weeds here, but I understand the principle behind it. Let's help those who maybe are not as technically savvy as others.
so how about something like shall facilitate,
Access?
yeah, shall facilitate communication and access to all members, eligible members of the pension, providing,
Do we need to even go further than that?
yeah,
And then,
does that make sense?
That's fine, yeah.
so
So, did that go through? Did that go through, Colt or Melissa?
I got it.
She brought her laptop.
okay.
Thanks.
I just don't
Comfortable?
computer
Directing
access, like,
it?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
can we move forward to the next item? I think it's the last item, correct?
That I think is a statutory thing, the 30 days and the 14-day notice. Correct, John? So the comment is, a 30-day notice is advisable, comment and change, but a 14-day notice is bare minimum, change to 14 business day notice. Isn't the notification on pension and the communication on the bylaws? Are you referring to the bylaws?
So for amendments to the bylaws, it's talking about notice, okay? So notice that changes are contemplated. It had a 24-hour notice. We can make that notice longer if we want to. The 24 hours is a minimum. So I would like to see 30 days notice, but I'm okay with 14.
Didn't we have statutory requirements on that?
No, I think, so the existing bylaws that we're amending
Okay.
had
The
the,
30-day.
yeah, I think it was 10
It was
days.
10 days.
Yeah, 10 days prior to the meeting. And that's what the previous discussion from the last meeting was shortening that. Because it's when you have to provide or post the bylaws themselves prior to taking consideration. There still is the 2-meeting process.
Right.
So you technically are giving 30 days notice. That's the intent of the 2-meeting, is that you introduce it at the first pension meeting. And technically, since they typically meet quarterly, it would actually be, 3 months of notice between the 2 regularly scheduled pension meetings, unless you scheduled a sooner special meeting. So, I mean, in that sense, you do have a fair amount of notice, because the intent is just from a pension board bylaw standpoint, getting it on that first agenda. We wanted to make it more accessible, so that that first agenda where you're actually just proposing the changes, just to talk about the proposed changes, you're going to come back for a second meeting on those anyways. So that's why we felt it was comfortable, because again, it was just to access, and part of that was changing. It was based on the old meeting notice provisions where you had 3 different physical places, et cetera. So we basically made it consistent with open meetings law posting, similar to the change that we made for the meeting notice in the beginning of the bylaws. So that was the basis of that change. But ultimately, so there is, that
So
is a point of
they're getting
discretion.
90 days notice from meeting to meeting.
Yeah, I mean, technically, because since you have, that's not a statutorily required process either. So you all are choosing to have a 2-meeting amendment process. So that does provide a certain degree of notice prior to any permanent change taking place, because it has to be introduced in one meeting and then approved in the following meeting. So I think it's built in that context. It's really about the posting
Yes.
of those bylaws.
Yeah, but so posting 14 business days ahead would be better, right? More notice is always better.
You don't want to shorten it.
It's not gonna hurt anything. In fact, it would give people more time. Everybody has busy lives, so my feeling in general is 24 hours notice is very, very short. So I would like to see 14 days notice. That's my point.
Chuck, does this fundamentally go back to, and I think you and I are on the same page with these concerns about how quickly we're getting our board packet and our agenda
All of
and,
that.
okay. So I think the notice about changes to the pension bylaws seems, and this is just my opinion, seems sufficient because we have it set that they have to be presented in one meeting and then voted on in the next. So that gives, if everything is smooth, that gives 90 days between the initial and the vote. I think, and you and I have the same issue with how we're receiving our, the
That's
packet,
the intent here. is
which I would like to address
Right.
separately.
Yeah, but if we put the 14 days in here, then that means that we have notice of changes to the bylaws that we can then look at before our meeting, and we're not quote-unquote blindsided.
Yeah,
We-
waiting.
We don't know what's going on and we're trying to do it in real time. This gives us some time to think about, read, research, etc.
Yeah,
So
this
that's
is an
an
ongoing
intention.
conversation that we've
Yeah.
had, yeah.
May I? Will this hamstring us in any way if we are in a need to have a special meeting?
I mean, that was the previous, the kind of the basis of the previous discussion was because it's a 2-meeting process, that means that then if you don't have the changes to the bylaws in, before that, first meeting, and it was previously 10 days, then you're in for a 3rd meeting.
Then you're already.
You're kind of signing up to like extend the process. And so there was a degree of consideration just about the accessibility of being able to propose amendments. So I mean, I think, the potential compromise I could see would be to have a posting requirement that's more than 24 hours for the 2nd meeting. Because essentially they should be finalized as of the 1st meeting, so they could be posted. We've discussed it at this 1st meeting, and then you could post it 14 days before the 2nd.
That works, yeah, that'll work.
Can we write, is that okay?
So it's still 10 days and then you're
No,
10 days before the second meeting?
It would be 24 hours before the 1st meeting.
24 hours.
Yeah.
but we could set a time point of any change, that final draft that we are voting on would have to be posted 14 days prior to
The
the 2nd
second,
meeting.
the adoption meeting.
Is that,
That works, yeah.
can we agree on that?
And everybody's good with 14 days, just
Yeah,
clarification.
that's 2 weeks
For the second.
for the 2nd
First one's
meeting.
only 24.
Hours.
I thought that was everybody's complaint.
No, what it was is that you had to have it 30 days before we even talked about it.
No,
So-
so it's 10 days from prior to the first meeting. You want to extend it to 14 days.
No, it's not the first
So this will
meeting,
be
it's
the
the 2nd
I
meeting.
know, that's what it said. So, the complaint initially was, I didn't get enough time to read it.
Yeah, and now you have 90 days
Right.
and 14 minimum.
But now it's 24 hours before the first.
But we can't vote on it in that first meeting.
It's just, if we don't have enough time to read it, isn't that what Chuck said?
But it's just a presentation, we can't vote on it at the first meeting. There's a mandatory 90
We had to do it
days.
in real time,
But
which was a complaint.
would we not have the opportunity, I think I see where you're going.
Yeah.
The longer we have on the front end to be able to evaluate what the possible need changes, our desires might be, to be able to then at that meeting say, I would like to change it here. Now you can think about it for 30 days and we're gonna vote on it. Because if I send something to Kevin, Chuck, or anyone 24 hours ahead of time and say, I want to change these, and I don't have a chance to read them, I come to a meeting, I sit down,
You're doing it in real time, which is what the.
I won't have had a chance to digest what that information is.
That's what we're
So-
doing right now. We're talking about something
which
we
is,
can't-
I think we can extend that just a little bit beyond 24 hours. If we stick to what we're doing for our current agenda and try to mirror what we have, and we have found that to be moderately successful in terms of getting the information. And that's currently, is that 72 hours, I think, that we have, or what are we doing now?
48,
Ahead of time.
24.
48 is what's
We're 48
required.
right now.
I
Thank
thought-
you, Sharon.
So I would say at least double it or even go to 72. Give them 3 days to look at this stuff.
I think 72 might be good, just give people that extra, and it's still in a short enough span to get it, pushed to that meeting, so.
Yeah, I'm fine with 72. I mean, I actually a little more, but
72 hours?
72.
I think so. I'm
A
getting
minimum of
affirmation.
72.
Yes,
from everybody.
yes.
That sounds great.
It should give people enough time to read it.
Yeah. All right. All right.
So it was 10.
I think we are through the changes, proposed changes that I am aware of. Were there any other ones anybody would want to bring to the floor? Any other proposed changes last time? Any other? Okay, that is the end of what I have on the agenda, unless you two gentlemen have anything else that you wanted to know.
I'll take everything we gathered tonight, kind of get it typed up, check with them, make sure everything's good, and I'll try to get it out to you as soon as I can. So currently, I need to get it 10 days before the January, for our current bylaws, but I'm gonna do my best to get it to you guys before that, just to be organized. It is, what is the,
Board meeting's on the 11th.
on the 11th, okay.
And if we were to change that, it's going to be an issue with the presentation now.
Yeah. Well, it depends on when we change it to. If you're talking about changing it because of the budget, then,
Due to the statute.
yeah.
You see where
I see where you're going with that. So my suggestion, Colt, is to get it done.
I got the homework.
Get it done.
And
then we
I
don't
think
have
this is
problems.
relevant to the discussion though, because due to the state statute, we have to have information back by the 10th.
But we don't get information until the 3rd.
Should I just share this
So-
with you now?
And as a point of just information to this group, is we were looking at bringing the next meeting up to January 5th so that we would meet the obligations of the statute. And I don't want what we're doing to be impeded with what we need to do for that. So is there going to be a hiccup, a possible hiccup, if Colt gets that out?
You got 2
Actually,
weeks.
what's the deadline for Colt to get it out so that we can ensure that we have it available to vote on the 5th? Because there is a need for us to move our.
Christmas.
Currently,
26.
It's, yeah, Christmas.
Christmas.
10 days. June 26th.
Yes.
You gotta do it next week.
Got it, I'm sorry.
But
Luckily, it's not the whole document, I just gotta change a few things we spoke about, so.
you see my point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I'll get it done as quickly as possible.
And a partridge in a
And
pear tree.
Thanks, Cole. I appreciate it. I'm sorry
Oh,
to
no,
dump
you're
that
good.
on you, but that was going to be a topic of discussion in our next meeting.
Yeah.
So no digging, John.
Okay. All right. Hearing nothing else, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Pinch board meeting has been adjourned at 6:45. All right, we'll take a 5-minute recess real quick while we reorganize ourselves. All the directors to come back, please. Okay, welcome to the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors regular meeting for December the 14th. Call the meeting to order. And we do have all our board members present. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? I am going to move real quick. I'm going to move the second item under new business, the proposed 2024 budget, up into the first item under old business.
Can
And then, yes,
I would request that we add, now item 2, a discussion of board meeting schedule and packet delivery.
Where is it?
the number 2 under new business will be board meeting schedule and packet, what was the last part?
Delivery.
Packet delivery, got it. All right, any other additions or deletions?
I would like an update, oh no, I'm gonna leave that alone because I think it's in Chief's report, I'll shut up.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the January board meeting date?
Yes, and I was assuming the board meeting schedule
Yeah.
was related.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
And I'm assuming.
No, but we can make it part of that.
Okay,
It is part of that.
It is part of that.
Yes,
okay.
It is now.
it's
All
like.
right, and I'm sorry, I made that assumption when you said board meeting schedule.
It's okay.
Okay. Any other additions or deletions? The agenda will be approved as such. All right, we'll move into our financial matters with our treasurer Woods. And I think, are we ready?
Wait, we have
What did I miss?
the minutes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I did jump down. We want to review and approve the minutes from September and October 2023. We all had a chance to go through there.
Jake, I would request again, I think I brought this up in October, I would like these to say draft.
Oh.
I think I asked Barb,
So there's still this stuff.
Just with a watermark.
yeah, I want him, so Melissa is submitting them as draft, I would like that to stay on there.
Okay, with a watermark?
A watermark as draft, because until, these board packets are public, but until we approve the minutes and sign them, they're not official, so I don't want there to ever be any confusion about
Can do.
what is the real one and what is discussion.
Perfect.
Thanks.
All right. Any other discussions about the meeting minutes from September and October 2023?
Yeah, so for the September meeting minutes, I have a dissent that we can circulate here.
Okay, I think we all have received it and it has been accepted.
As
Any other
appendix,
additions or deletions?
it was Appendix A.
Yeah, it probably didn't get in the print.
It did not, it was public comment 1 or 2.
Number 2.
So,
So that was
On the
in the September minutes. And then in the October minutes, I also have a dissent.
I haven't seen that. I don't think any of us have seen that.
And that is here.
can we vote on these separately? I would like to move that we accept the September 14th, 2023 board meeting minutes with the addition of Appendix A.
Did you get that, Melissa?
Is that a motion?
Yeah, it was a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Director Devaney that we accept the minutes in addition to Appendix A. Discussion, please? No discussion? Discussion?
But nothing, call the question.
Question is called. You want to restate your motion or you want to reread it? So I don't-
No, I agree. I don't want to restate it.
Go ahead and state it.
I move that we accept the September 14th, 2023 board meeting minutes as written with the addition of Appendix A submitted by Director Newby.
All right, question's been called, motion's been read, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. We had another motion.
I do. I move that we accept the October 12th, 2023 minutes as written.
Motion, and we have a second.
I'll second that motion.
A motion, a second, discussion on the motion.
I would like to explain my reasoning.
As a motion maker,
I read your letter. I respect your opinion. But unlike a dissent, the document that you submitted is an opinion letter. It is from your perception, and in my opinion, and I'm happy to defer to legal, I do not think it constitutes being added to the minutes of the proceedings. That's my opinion.
I haven't seen it, so I have.
I want to make sure everybody has a copy of that.
If you would prefer to table it, I'm fine with that.
Did you forward it to everybody?
I did not forward it to everybody, I asked Libby to
Okay,
send that to everyone.
all right.
And then I asked Director Baker to forward it to everybody. So
All
I
right,
can
so I
forward
think
it.
in light of the fact that I haven't
I would
had,
move that we
yeah,
table.
I'm gonna ask you to rescind your motion.
I rescind my motion and move that we table the October, hold on, I'll give you the exact date to make it all superficial. The October 12th, 2023 minutes to be reviewed and approved at the January meeting.
We have a motion, with a second. Second? All right. Is there a need for discussion on that motion?
I would request that legal review it.
Okay,
Then we should make a motion that we review it, I think.
okay, well, we can't make a motion within the motion
Okay.
unless the motion maker approves to that. So I would almost ask
Okay.
for simplicity.
Can I restate?
You want to rescind your motion and restate a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Sorry,
that's okay.
delete. I move that we table approval of the October 12th, 2023 minutes pending a review by legal counsel.
Motion made, second?
Is it the minutes that are being reviewed, or is it the additional document that's
The
being reviewed?
addendum, the submitted document by Director Newby.
There was a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A second. Discussion on the motion?
Could we restate the motion? I'm not sure what the motion is.
I move that we table approval of the October 12th, 2023 minutes until such time as Lyons Gaddis Legal, Mr. John Camille, can review the minutes and Director Newby's attached submitted document and submitted document. I want legal's review. However you want to word that, make it official.
Got it.
I want John to read it and weigh in. Okay, thank you. That's my
The
motion.
motion has been restated. Is there discussion on the motion? Discussion on the motion. Third time, discussion on the motion. Hearing none, call the question.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any nays?
No.
All right. Here we go. And that motion carries. That moves us into financial matters. Director Woods, and I think, Ben, you got everything up and running? We're good to go?
You're driving, you're driving?
Yeah, that's totally good, right?
All right.
I'm lost now, what do I do up here?
I'm just getting back there so I can actually see.
See?
Say whatever. Don't trip me on that. Okay, oh, I got my both screens.
You know, for the moment, there's still time.
We've had some technical issues today. So, today's December 14th. This is going to be a report of the November 2023 financials. as printed and documented on December 1st, 2023. So this graph shows where we are year-to-date in terms of total revenue. Budget for the year is $5,387,681. We are right now at $5,584,145. So we actually have exceeded our year-end budget at this point. Contributors to the revenue, property taxes are 3.6 million of that number. There's only about $9,000 added in November, so November, December property tax collections seem to be very small. Ownership taxes are at $253,000. Ambulance transports are at $396,000. That's actually about 104% of the budget for ambulance transports. SURF reimbursement is at $876,000, which is 95% of what was budgeted. Lease revenues at $59,000. Again, that's over budget. Interest income is $279,000. We know interest rates have been kind of crazy this year, so they are actually a bit less month to date, but year to date they're over budget. Next slide. November year to date, total expense $4,710,570. The budget for that same period is $4,813,647. So we are a little bit under budget at 88% of the year. Positive expense variances in administration, training, SURF, maintenance, fire stations, and then capital.
Can I ask a question, Sharon?
Sure.
Or it may be of you or it may be of Jake. Are we projecting, are we going to be on target to be under budget
For what?
for 2023?
Under budget
In expenses.
for what? In expenses?
Yes.
We will probably be pretty close.
Have we done,
I don't know, I haven't seen December. I mean, December's only halfway over, so I don't know the answer to that question, but we should be pretty close.
Jake?
Yes, we'll be under.
Okay, thank you.
He knows more than I do. So,
He knows what he spent.
that's what he said. So, year-to-date income, we're basically at $977,650. Net income for 2022 at this time was $1,417,781, and the budget for net income is $7,271. So we will be goodly, is that a word? Over budget for net income. Goodly's not a word.
It is now.
I like it. It is now. I've faded it.
Nope.
Okay, next slide. Property tax revenue is the biggest contributor to the budget of revenue. So it's more than 67% of the revenue. Right now, property tax revenue is forecasted to be $3,625,336. We are at $3,576,28. So we're going to be right there. I'm going to be fairly comfortable, Jake, that we're going to be pretty much right there, because we are at 98% of forecasted revenue. And I know there's some things coming through in December.
All the tax liens just closed out, so you should start seeing those roll in.
Okay. You know more than I do. Okay, next slide. So this is what property tax looks like on a monthly basis. You can see a big spike in March. That's when most people pay their property taxes, especially if they're escrowed. Some people are paying them out of pocket, so but there's still a spike in March. There's another spike in July when the rest of it is due, and then the rest of the year, on a monthly basis, property taxes are pretty flat. But Dominique just said, we got more money coming in. That's good. Next slide. Just like property tax, labor is our biggest expense. So at this point, we're just looking at labor, right? We are at this point at $2,981,923. So total labor right now is actually over budget. Total expenses are not, but labor is. The big chunk in November has to do with things like PTO payoffs, which is people that get paid for time and instead of taking vacation. The other thing that affects that number is healthcare costs tend to be a little bit higher at the end of the year. More family coverage than there was at the first part of the year. So that will continue to be over budget. Next slide. Okay, without SURF, again, this is labor, but it's adjusted for SURF and adjusted for billed labor that we bill to entertainment. And that is, as it was in this previous slide, over budget. If you guys read the numbers, I can, but I think you can see. So just like it was for the other one, we hired EMS personnel this year, salary adjustments for existing personnel because of the people that we hired for EMS and also PTO. Next slide. SURF is currently under budget, so we're at 516, 533, and budget at this period was 540, 142. That goes flat this time of year because we really hope we're not going to have any more fires. That's kind of what we hope. We're not, right, Chief? Never mind. I'm not putting you on the spot. I promise.
We don't talk about those things.
You don't talk about this thing? We actually had less fires, next slide. We
We
actually
don't
had,
talk about those things.
we had less fires this year than we did last year.
It's like Beetlejuice. Don't you remember?
What?
It's like Beetlejuice. You've mentioned fires twice now.
So at this point, we have submitted to the state for reimbursement $1,167,170. Okay, if you look down a little bit, we've actually been reimbursed for $875,687. We have operational expenses for SURF. Total operational expenses, you saw labor on the previous slide of $599,502, and basically the state still owes us $291,482. I expect that we will collect that because last year our number was actually greater and we collected 100% of what we submitted to the state.
What is that timeline looking like again?
Usually it's first quarter of the next year that we actually get finished collecting everything because, well, we might collect more in December, but Christmas vacations and things like that. So it'll probably be first quarter when we get the Just kind of FYI, we were at 39 days from submission to payment last month. We're now at 49 days. So that gives you an idea of, for fires in November, unlikely we're going to get paid for them until January.
Is that, do you foresee there being any issue with getting reimbursed?
No.
Is it
No.
just the delay?
It's just the delay, a lot of
Just a
it
delay.
is, a lot of it's staffing with DFPC. There aren't a lot of people working in that department. Literally, when they're fully staffed, I think there's 5 for the state, for the entire state of Colorado.
Yeah, and
So,
everybody's submitting, right?
yeah, so there are over 100+ departments that submit. So a lot of it just has to do with staffing. I mean, we've never had an issue in the 13 years we've been submitting.
Yeah, we submitted almost 1.3 million in 2022. By, I think it was February, March, we received all of that. So we don't anticipate not receiving all of it. Just an FYI, I counted 24 total fires, 1 in Alaska, 3 in California, 11 in Colorado, 1 in Montana, 1 in New Mexico, 3 in Oregon, 2 in South Carolina, that was a new one this year, and 2 in Washington State. So actually less fires this year than last year. Next slide. As of November 30th, on the report that I had, Sage financial ledger expenses were $423,844. This is the amount that's shown in the board packet. And so I would like a motion to approve the Sage ledger expenses for November 30th, of $423,844.
Senator Woods is asking for a motion to approve the stage ledger expenses recorded as of November 30th, 2023 for $423,844.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. All right. Thank you very much, Director Woods. And that takes us to Chief Ware's report.
All right. As I think everybody knows, this is the 75th anniversary of the Elk Creek Fire Protection District. They've been providing services for the Conifer area, and it's been a pretty exciting ride. We actually have a video that PIO Urban produced, we're putting on the website, it talks about the history, a lot of pretty cool stuff she dug up. And we had a 75th anniversary dinner, celebration, banquet, awards banquet last week. So what I wanted to do is actually recognize some of those people in front of this audience, just so it kind of goes on the public record as to who got what. One of the things we always do in the fire service is we always celebrate operational people and operations that people do, firefighting, EMS, that sort of thing. This year I want to take a second to recognize some of our members that for non-operational things, because these are the people, while we spend a lot of time on operations, a lot of the community events we do, it takes a lot of bandwidth, and without these people there's no way we get some of these things done. So we recognized Sarah Marble, Heather Cuisnar, Philip Koch, and Miranda Tucker. These people are integral into a lot of our operations, so we wanted to recognize them for what they do outside of operations. We also recognize several retirees. We had, this is pretty astounding, this will go into FPPA. Pete Eigel retired with 30 years of volunteer service. I believe he is our only retiree at 30 years. Pretty fantastic, that's a long time to volunteer. Also John Louder. John Louder is actually retiring, and for those of you who don't know, he worked down in Aurora, and he's actually retiring from his real job. He's actually moving away, which is disappointing, because John Louder is somebody who is, he's always been there. He has been active retired for, I didn't look it up to see, but he never comes on the first call, he comes out on the second call, he comes out on the third call. He's a brilliant paramedic, a brilliant firefighter, and a real asset to the district. And I'm sad to see him go, but it is pretty exciting to, he's gonna go retire in Georgia. And last but not least, one of our active retired individuals, Larry Hauser, is finally moving away. He retired with 10 years of service, remained active retired because he just can't quit. And we saw him this morning. The movers are loading the stuff up out of his house, and he's gone. He's planning on leaving, I believe, tomorrow afternoon, and that's, as he said, that's probably the last time he's ever going to wear a jacket again. He's moving to Phoenix.
Did you send him his last checks that I signed today?
I gave it to him when he stopped by. Then also wanted to recognize the Firefighter of the Year. This individual is voted on by his peers. So we send out a ballot between the whole department, and his peers voted for him. So that's Andrew McManus. And then is McManus here? Oh, well, the next one is. And then also the 2023 Rookie of the Year, Ms. Kelsey McCauley. And then last but not least, we also had some unit citations and some CPR saves. This first one was from call 2023-331. It was April 15th. The individuals involved were firefighter EMT Luca Fabri. And as a sidebar, this is the 4th time Luke has been involved, and he should have received one of these. He's also been a volunteer for 19 years. Lieutenant Jenkins, paramedic Neese, and firefighter paramedic Evers, and firefighter paramedic Smith. Little bit about that. That was kind of special. We actually had the individual that they saved. So kudos to Mr. Smith and Mr. Evers. This individual called. He's actually a professional firefighter down the hill and paramedic. He kind of knew what was going on. Him and his wife were going to go get some shoes. But instead, he ruined that by having a massive heart attack. On the way to the hospital, Evers and Smith cardioverted him 3 times. Then he was cardioverted again in the emergency room. He actually was there on Friday to give the citation to these guys, and he's back on the job. It's pretty exciting. That doesn't happen.
And then the next one, so the CPR save goes to Smith and Evers. The next one, sorry, there's a typo there, obviously a cut and paste of the same call below it. It's actually call number 2022-630 on June 9th. That would be another Evers. Let's see, that was Jenkins, Hartley, and Evers. And they went out on a call, and there was an individual complaining of chest pain, and they ordered a helicopter, and Lieutenant Hartley was in the back by herself, and this individual arrested. And for those of you who don't know, working in cardiac arrest by yourself in a moving ambulance is, that's something to it. And this individual was alive and talking after cardioversion and a few other interventions when she was delivered to the helicopter and walked out of the hospital. So, thank you. And while we talk about this, and some people say, well, it's just doing our job. Unfortunately, our outcomes are not this good all the time due to response times and due to a number of factors. So this is pretty exciting to have these saves. All right, so operations, volunteer
Real
fire.
quick, Chief.
Oh, sorry.
If you would allow me.
Of course, I'm sorry.
Sarah is here.
She left.
All right. Heather, are you here? All right, that's okay. I know Mr. Flip is here. Miranda, I thought I saw him. Pete, you said he's gone, huh? Gone?
Pete Eigel, he's not here.
Okay, and I know John's not here. Andrew, are you here? And then Kelsey, you are here. I saw you, thank you. Is Luca here? I didn't see him. Jenkins, I thought I saw. No? All right, let's see. And then paramedic Niece?
Niece is not here.
Okay, this might not work out. Paramedic Evers.
Evers is here.
Firefighter Smith? No? All right, that's okay. Then I'll go through Jenkins, Hartley, Evers. If I could just get you all to come here and stand in the front real quick. Regardless if you wear a badge or if you're helping on the sidelines, you are a hero.
Thank you.
I need you to hear that. You are a hero.
Yes, they are. If I may, before we go any further, I was able to attend the 75th anniversary. Thank you all, Miranda, especially for putting that together. That was an absolutely beautiful event. Well done. And I personally would like to thank Miss Urban for a video that was just, it was so cool. It was cool to see the old faces. It was cool to see people we haven't seen. Having been around this department for 15 years now, it was really nice to see some of that. If you haven't seen the video, as soon as you can, check it out. It is so well done.
We should be getting up on the website.
Yeah, it is so well done. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. Operations, we had 95 hours of staffing. That's down a little bit, which is normal once the holidays start hitting because people have other things to do. We averaged 3.7 people per call. As you see, the 4.4 members per call. That's because we did have a structure fire. And we actually had 19 people respond, which is the most we've had in, that's probably almost a record, which is pretty exciting. It was a Monday. I was going to talk about that on my operational highlights. It was Monday, about 11 o'clock. Got called for possible structure fire, upgraded to a structure fire, and kudos to Cap Weinfeld and A-Shift. They actually made the push in there. In a 5,100 square foot dwelling, they actually made a pretty solid stop with 5 of us on scene for the first about 12 minutes. It's pretty exciting, but they did a great job. And that, I think everybody knows, it's the big brown house at the top of the hill at Aspen Park that everybody has driven by at least twice a day forever. So good job, thanks to those guys. 16% of the calls overlapped, about normal, and our average response time is up 1040, and that I believe is reflection of the weather. We finally started getting snow, which is extending our response time, which is about normal for this time of year. Incidents, again, about normal, nothing out of the ordinary. We had 104 total, down from last year at this time. Automatic aid, we only had 2, and there's actually more. There were just a couple reports that weren't finished, so that number will go up. Transports, down from last year at this time by 1. We had 33 transports. We had 400 hours of training for the month, and the Fire Academy has now completed hazmat, and they are going to be looking at a graduation here coming up early next year in the first quarter. Fire prevention, we had Fire Marshal Rush and Fire Marshal Parker had 39 inspections, 15 letters and county referrals, 7 plan reviews. This is a big one. Park County adopted the 2018 international codes, including the WUI code, effective January 1st, 2024.
Way cool.
Yeah, a lot of fire departments didn't even know about that. It's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds, because that also requires sprinklers, which has never been required in Park County, ever. It's going to be interesting to see how this affects. It's going to be easier for us, because we've been doing it for quite some time, but it's going to be interesting to see how that affects the delineation of that county line. Rachel Rush, our fire marshal, is one of 4 instructors for the statewide Fire and Life Safety Educator 2 class. That's been pretty great. We have a lot of feedback. She's been teaching at South Metro, and a lot of people have had a lot of complimentary things to say. And she is also, she's also our investigator, and she finished the Barkley Road fire. The determined cause was accidental for that. Fleet equipment and facilities, we've had Station 3, if anybody's driven by that, it no longer looks like a tractor shed. We had the siding completed and painting. There should be exterior lighting redone. The electrician texted me today and said he's picking up the lights, so he should have exterior lighting on it. It should actually look like a fire station again. Station 1, and the reason this is going into a little more granular detail is a couple people asked about more detail on some of the maintenance repairs and that sort of thing. Our boiler had some repairs and a sensor replaced. And then obviously the things in here, the flooring tables, etc., paint, we were trying to, that's been on the docket for a while. We finally got it completed. Fleet, we had, our newest engine had some exhaust seals fail. Took it out of service for about a week, got them repaired. Big one, 2018, one of our Dodge utility trucks. It is it's our plow truck, as well as we use it for towing, etc. It had a transmission fail, which is a thing. Currently, fleet manager Hujanowski is working with Dodge. It's been out of warranty for about 6 months, and the repair is $12,900. Yeah, for transmission. He's working with Dodge right now to see if they'll do a cost share, since it's right out of warranty on that. Engine design committee is now meeting with vendors, which is pretty exciting. We're still on track to actually order 2 pumpers in the first quarter of 24. 2003 utility truck had a failure of some rear brake calipers. 2 ambulances. This is the time we usually do tires as winter unfolds, so we got new tires on all the ambos and had the services, and we changed over everything on the utility vehicles to winter tires. And equipment-wise, this doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's kind of a game changer. Battery-operated tools have really made a difference in the fire service. We actually just got a battery-operated ventilation fan. Historically, they've always been a 4-stroke Honda motor. You put gas in it, big fan, very heavy, it weighed about 80 pounds, usually 2 people to move it. We just, Captain Weinfeld was instrumental in testing out this battery-operated fan. It's a game changer. Once the batteries die, you can plug it into a small 1,000-watt generator. We used it on this fire. It ran on the batteries for 47 minutes. It actually, again, a 5,100 square foot dwelling, and it ventilated it fine. So we're actually going to order a couple of those. It's kind of an exciting, nerdy piece that we're moving to. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that takes us into our first public comment. Who's running the board? Actually, the budget is the first item of new business, and I have that after public comment.
No, you moved it under old business.
Under old business, yeah. I have it after public comment. All right, we'll start off with Mr. Whitehead.
Oh!
Again, I will remind everybody that there needs to be a degree of decorum and respect And we are going to limit to 3 minutes. I got my time checker here. And if you would, please, Mr. Whitehead, so that we can get you on camera. Thank you.
I'm Neil Whitehead, and I've been a resident of the Oak Creek Fire Protection District since August 1998. And I attended the Conifer Town Hall on November the 15th and heard a presentation by Chief Sherlaw and Chief Ware. And some of the terms laid out in that presentation are Sherlaw, moving forward, bump in the road, regroup, and Chief Ware needs to figure out the right path to get there. And I'm asking the board and hopefully the chief, what are the options and paths that are being considered regarding consolidation, in quotes? And the other question I have, Chief Rogers from North Fork was not there and his absence was not mentioned, so is North Fork still in this consolidation process?
Thank you very much. Consolidation it failed at the ballot box.
We have
So next,
no discussion on that at this point.
Okay, thank you.
next we have Mr. Olson.
Okay, I'm Paul Olson. I've been a resident up here since 2005, I think. So my question is what's your long-range plan? I mean, coming from the transportation industry, we have to have a 20-year plan. Here's what we're going to do. And here's the funding that we're going to get there now. And then from that, you've got a 3-year step, or this is what we're actually going to do. This is the money we've got. This is what we're actually going to do. And the way I see what you all are doing, you're living paycheck to paycheck. I realize that some of this is, you don't know whether fire is coming up or not, but things like equipment, there's a lot of this stuff that can be planned further into the future so that when it happens, you're better prepared to deal with it. And that you can convey to us, your clientele, where are we going? What are we doing? And it seems to me, in looking at what went down with consolidation, that there was no long-range plan there. It was just, oh, we're going to do it. And we start down that path. So I think you really need to start considering some long-range planning. Now you're starting to look at developer fees, and you really can't look at those without looking at, well, what's the growth rate going to be here? You can't do anything about, well, how many firefighters do I need? How much equipment do I need? Until you start looking at that and start thinking longer term so that you can prepare for it now so that when that comes up, you've got a better idea of where you want to go with it. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Next is Mr. Al Leo.
Good evening. My name is Al Leo. I live at 19293 Silver Ranch Road. I'm here to make the board of directors aware of 3 items that I think they need to be aware of with respect to the behavior that Director Newby has directed toward 2 citizens of this fire protection district. The first one, on October the 12th at the board meeting, I stood in support of Missy Weinfeld after Mr. Newby's appalling treatment of her. As the board meeting ended, I left the building with Mr. Newby shouting and following me and confronting me outside for standing in support with Missy Weinfeld. I didn't know what he was going to do. He was so angry that he was yelling at me. I asked the person closest to the door to hold it open so people could witness what was going on. He followed me out of the building and confronted me. Next point. I noticed that the banners, mailers, and ads that were put out by Save Elk Creek Fire, who Mr. Newby is the registered agent for, didn't have the disclosures required in Rule 22. I filed a complaint with the Secretary of State's office because that Issues Committee is required to follow those laws. Mr. Newby then took to next door to voice his displeasure with my complaint. But he called those a nuisance complaint that was trying to stifle his free speech rights, or the group's free speech rights. That's wrong. These complaints were intended to make sure that a political committee was following the laws of the state of Colorado. The email from the Campaign Finance Enforcement Legal Analyst states, complaint alleges facts that have proven could establish respondent, that's Mr. Newby, violated campaign finance laws. Respondent, Mr. Newby, will have 10 days from the date of this notice until November 6th to submit the attached notice to cure. Well, on November 6th and 7th, he went back to next door. This is point 3, and updated his post to add that I dishonored myself and the cause by filing these nuisance complaints. Towards the end of the post, he goes on to say that he has provided a robust response to what are now petty nuisance
15 seconds.
All right. The Secretary of State responded, says, that given the responses to the violations alleged in the complaint, respondent Mr. Newby did not provide information to establish cure and trigger substantial compliance.
Time's up. I'm sorry, Mr.
Thank
Reed.
you. Thank you.
All right, next we're going to call Ms. Weinfeld.
My name is Melissa Weinfeld. I'm a resident of this fire district and the proud wife of Captain Weinfeld. President Pixley, Director Baker, Director Devaney, and Director Woods, I would like to apologize to you for my behavior at the last board meeting. I am sorry that I allowed myself to get drugged down to that level and for my emotions getting the best of me. Please try to understand that as the wife, goddaughter, and granddaughter of firefighters, it is extremely hard to sit idly by and watch someone not only insult but defame people you love. But I do recognize that these are your meetings, to which your focus should be the business affairs and betterment of this district. However, because I believe that should be your focus, I would like to express my continued encouragement of the board to find ways to enforce your bylaws and Colorado state laws with accountability and consequences. Multiple social media posts were made by Director Newby that are false, as Mr. Leo just mentioned. He also used his platform with his COSEC group and an email list. His exact words, quote, "What you may not know is that my personal safety was threatened that evening as I made my way out of the fire station, as well as subsequently via a number of threatening phone calls, but that's a story for another time," end quote. Yet, no police were called to the scene, no police reports were filed for that incident, and I do not believe camera footage was ever requested by Mr. Newby for any proof of anything. Putting false accusations in writing that threaten the reputation of others is libel defamation. He states in another post, a well-coordinated, orchestrated campaign of harassment, intimidation, and threats that they would take legal action against me. I made no threats. Last meeting I shared that I filed multiple complaints with you, with the Secretary of State's office against Director Newby. Complaints that were called, quote, nuisance complaints, and that, quote, we'd be happy to know a robust response to their extremely petty nuisance allegations, end quote. The current status of those complaints
1 minute.
and the investigation with the Secretary of State's Elections Division, as Mr. Leo said, is that Mr. Newby did not provide information to establish cure, and that investigation is still further going. The Elections Division also told me 2 specific complaints, violations of CRS 113-107 and 113-109 were criminal statute violations, and encouraged me to file complaints with the Jefferson County DA's office for those. I have done so, and they are currently under investigation. I have a special needs brother, and I spent much of my childhood standing up to his bullies. Director Newby is a bully, and while I will continue to take the high road and rely on the truth, I do not tolerate bullies well, and I will stand between Director Newby and these heroes for as long as I need to. Everything I have said is fact and truth. I will share it with all of you directors, and once I do, that is a matter of public record. Anyone can access those via a Cora request from the board. Thank you.
And forgive me, Andy, is it Fulton?
Fulham.
Fulham. All right, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Andy Fulham?
Nothing prepared.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. And then last, Mr. Flipko.
I pronounce it Koch, sir, but I respond to almost anything.
And Flip, I'm sorry, I'm the grammatical guy.
That's all good. All right. So I'd like to remind those here present, I also live in district, I'm a volunteer in this department. I'd like to remind those here present that this is neither a debate nor is it a call and response session. The intent is to listen. Since there were some challenges here last time, notably from Director Newby, I want to point that out here. And let's start with a quote, and let's start my time, from the King James Bible. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. You, Mr. Newby, and your cohort of leadership at COSEC, Conifer South Evergreen Community Committee, seem to revel in politics. I personally despise them. I only entered political discussion when the public is threatened, as it was in November's election, which was about public safety and emergency response. Something you managed to make political. To me, I don't understand how our safety is political. In November, you ran a deeply deceitful, dishonest, and disrespectful campaign against consolidation, a truly dirty one. You created an issues committee as is required. You gave it a confusing name, and the voters were indeed confused by this. You were fast and loose with election laws, as has already been pointed out. You misappropriated the Elk Creek logo, which is trademarked, and did so without permission. The cease and desist order that Elk Creek served you covered with the fig leaf of fair use. No intellectual property attorney with whom I have consulted says that this is fair use. There was, by supporters, theft of pro-consolidation posters and banners, and yet you support free speech. You were disrespectful and contemptuous of all Elk Creek members, its staff, fellow directors, the population in general, which you treated as mushrooms, meaning you kept them in the dark and you beat them crap. The entire democratic process has been perverted by what you've done. Have you never had a course in civics? You've been fast and loose with the truth. Mis and disinformation worthy of such U.S. politicians as Joseph McCarthy and Richard Nixon, and sadly many more recent U.S. politicians. Ditto outside the U.S., with the worst of two-bit dictators in the developing world, the Kims in North Korea, every leader of the People's Republic of China, Stalin in the Soviet Union, Putin in today's Russia, Mussolini, Franco, and Hitler's Minister of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels. So, the discredited in America, the despots, communists, and fascists elsewhere, you're in great company. Shame on you and your conspiracy-crazed, underinformed, fact-denying, and fact-inventing cabal of COSEC leadership curmudgeons. And unlike what you claim, as Missy has already pointed out, you are not the victim of misdeeds. Here, you are the perpetrator.
10 seconds, Mr. Koch.
You do not represent Elk Creek's people at large as required, but rather you represent the special interest group of COSEC. You will reap what you sow.
Mr. All right. Thank you all. Your notes or your information, I have taken notes. As the board, we will. That takes us to old business, and we only have one item. That's proposed 2024 budget. Chief, you have some budgetary points that you would like to make for everyone?
Yes, in the interest of time, I'll kind of talk about the high points, the budget narrative. The budget represents the best estimate of expected revenues and anticipated costs for 2024. All projected revenues and expenditures are subject to change as more complete information is available, and that is never truer than it has been for this year. In the end, the budget will be, even after adoption, an estimate of the revenue and expenditures for 2024. Actual income and cost may vary. The budget is broken down in areas where the money is spent, and the final numbers are easier to see and what certain programs cost and how they impact the district. This year has had some challenges, to say the least. In the October meeting, we had originally talked about having a budget. The draft budget was there. We agreed 3 budgets with all the different outcomes, and actually Director Devaney thank you for saying, let's just push this because it does make a lot of sense, and honestly, it didn't. We were waiting on HH as well as to see what consolidation held, as well as to see if the taxpayers wanted to keep to abolish the sunsetting mill levy. The sunsetting mill levy was resolved. Proposition HH did not pass, which at that point in time we thought we were good and we started working, and then I'm sure everybody saw Governor Polis's thing. He broke the glass, made the emergency legislative session, and then he started working on another property tax relief bit of legislation. The emergency legislative session, he ended up signing a bill that's going to provide property tax relief for property owners. One of the aspects is lowering the property assessment rate, which directly affects where we get our funding. Then in the bill, there's also a component that exempts fire protection districts and ambulance districts. There are a number of other exemptions, but that's the one that concerns us the most. This means that the final numbers from Jefferson and Park County are not due to us until January 3rd of 2024, which is going to be a challenge. Park County was ahead of the game. I wrote this before. Park County just gave us their final numbers, and they were about 5% less than their preliminary numbers. The new legislation has made the ability to make budget amendments much easier because every special district, every special fire protection district in the state is kind of under the same, I don't even know what you call it. It's a challenge right now. We don't have our final numbers from Jefferson County under the guidance of Mr. Camille. And our legal counsel, they were suggesting that we're probably going to be looking at a 5% reduction from the preliminary, which is what we built this budget off of. Park County fell right in line with that. We built the budget off 5%, and when we got the final valuations from Park County, it was 5% lower than the preliminary. So we're hoping Jeffco is going to fall in line, but we're not going to know. The usual certificate of valuation is provided. This year it keeps getting pushed back. Usually the value is less than the preliminary due to reductions in appeals. This year there were a record number of appeals. Nobody's really been able to say how the appeals are going to affect along with the legislation. That's another one that's kind of a shot in the dark, and we don't know what that's going to look like. So right now, with the numbers we have and what we're looking at, is going to be about a 31 increase in our revenues between the two counties. It's going to be about $980,000. While this is going to help with, and that number is still a soft number because we're not going to know what it looks like till we get everything from Jefferson County. This is going to make a big difference in our capital expenditures and purchasing. I personally don't believe that this is going to be the way it is for perpetuity. I think once the housing market starts to stabilize and the market prices become a little more realistic, I think it's going to go down. And there's already talk that the legislation is only good for 1 year. They're going to do something else next year. Nobody really knows what that's going to look like. It could be another HH, it could be something like that. So really this is kind of hard to project out any more than just this year right now. I mean, Mr. Camille, that's what we got from your office, and unless you have any insight onto this,
Nope.
Yeah, nobody does. We've been sitting in, SDA has had several meetings about it, and it's really a brave new world for budgeting for special districts right now. So that's what we're going to go with. That's all we know, and we're just going to go for this year and see what next year brings. Moving forward, we talk about specific ownership taxes, it's vehicle licenses, wildfire reimbursement. It's a little bit different up to this year. Grant funding, we don't know what that's going to look like. Lease revenue is lease space from us on radio and cellular equipment. And our interest income is another one, and Director Woods has pointed that out several times, our interest rate. While the interest rate is not good for anybody as an individual, it is not bad for us keeping our money in the bank. It's one of the reasons we've tried to, when we make capital purchases, to keep our money in the bank and pay for everything on delivery, because with the interest rates, we're doing pretty well. We've actually made, I believe, $250 this year, right around there, almost $250,000 just off interest by keeping our money in the bank. And it's going to allow us to keep writing checks for things instead of financing them, which I really believe is the right way to do business. So expenditures. Largest expenditure that we have is labor, of course. People are always the most expensive, and as far as I'm concerned, the most valuable thing we have. We can buy the best trucks in the world, but if we don't have people to staff them, volunteering career, they will not go anywhere. So 2024, we are going to be implementing a new compensation plan. It's been the result of a tremendous amount of work
from our HR manager, John Zigschmidt, looking at a lot of the departments across the range that we compete with. It's an effort to retain our current employees as well as help our recruitment. We're also going to be sending 2 current employees to paramedic school. This is, you know, right now, I just learned that another agency down the hill has upped their starting pay for firefighter paramedics to $114 for a first year. We will never be able to compete with that. So we have had people that are employees now that are interested in going to P school. So we're going to go with our homegrown paramedics instead, because we have people that are loyal employees that have already been here, that like being here, and so we're going to send them to school. And we're going to add 2 additional people to cover those individuals. And after those 2 come back, we're also going to have a 3rd that's going to go to paramedic school. Insurance and work comp. Our liability insurance keeps going up. Lawsuits do not help our liability insurance. We're looking at least a 15 to 20% increase. That's just what it is. Those are fixed costs we can't do anything about. Some of the highlights of the budget, while these aren't huge ticket items, I think they are very important. We're going to be doing firefighter physicals for all career and volunteer firefighters. We're also going to be working with some consultants to address, and actually Mr. Whitehead and Mr. Olson brought this up. We are going to be building a strategic plan for Elk Creek Fire. We've been looking at several consultants to work with, and I think we've narrowed it down. We've probably selected one. We'll be sending that out to the board. Once we get that, the board is going to be heavily involved in it. There's also going to be a big public component. That was one of the things we got out of the consolidation election, is having a more sound strategic plan. It's going to take our vehicle replacement plan, all these components, and build out a strategic plan for us. We are also looking at another firm called Waterworth, and while Director Devaney can probably explain better, they are basically an infrastructure planning and management consulting firm. Is that the way you describe them?
There's so much more than that.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I'm sitting down and they're going to do a demonstration, but I've talked to several people. They just started, they do a lot with public utilities, but now they started moving to fire departments, and they help with capital forecast, capital purchase forecasting, and capital asset management, lifespan, et cetera, et cetera. Their products look pretty cool on the front end.
It is an amazing tool, so I can speak to this. It's actually, so for me, it's called Waterworth. I think for your side, it's Muni.
Yes,
or
yeah.
Muniworth. It's an amazing tool. It takes all of your, it takes your budgets, all of your ins, your outs, your capital. It takes all of your asset management and plugs it in. You can forecast the life of your assets, the cost, the devaluation, and it really becomes, we have used it for 6 years now. I actually just presented yesterday for them for their year-end review. It is an amazing product, and for what it costs, it is shockingly affordable for what it does. So I'm happy to answer any more questions about it, but I look forward to hearing what you think about it, Jake.
Yeah, and I'm going to sit down with one of the reps, Emily, and learn more about it. But between that and the strategic plan, the goal is to get all of our plans in together in one place and actually build out a solid, at least 1, 3, and 5.
Yeah.
Now the wild card in this is budgeting, because we don't know what the next HH is going to be, GG or whatever it's going to be called. That's going to be something. So even some of these consultants are talking about budgeting as one of the forecasting is a challenge in this current climate.
And Muniworth Muni billing, whatever they're calling themselves, it's Econics. They can actually, it's so awesome that you can clone your baseline model and play with it indefinitely. If X does this, what happens to Y? You'll really like it. I think the results for the community as a whole and the department specifically will be spectacular.
I think it's really going to help us with a lot of forecasting, with capital, we are going to have some capital improvements and that sort of thing. So I think it'll be good. And then last but not least, we have settled, I've got a contract, I haven't signed it yet, with a consulting firm for the impact fees. And all of this is going to be coalescing into what, over the next 6 months, hopefully we're going to build out what that 135 looks like. They're all going to be working together in order to build out a solid plan for the future.
So I'd like to see some of that. I would have
But
liked.
you're gonna be intimately
Well,
involved in it.
I was hoping you would say that.
Well, you don't get a choice. You're stuck with it. Yeah, once we get it put together, like I said, the board is gonna have, like it or not, a huge part in it. And then there's gonna be a lot of public involvement, a lot of public meetings and public component as well. The next one is 2 fire engines. This is the weird line in the budget. We've been talking about how to view this, and it's gonna, we talked about it with Mr. Camille a couple months ago. I'd like to budget 2.2 million for fire engines. Right now, they're looking at 1.1 up to 1.5, which is ludicrous for a fire engine that in 2015 cost $730,000. But that's what it is. I don't want to spend the money, but we need to earmark those funds. And so that's going to be up to a board action. I think you had talked about getting a resolution that we could earmark those funds for expenditure when and pay on delivery. Right now, all the vendors, they're totally fine with full payment on delivery. They're not even taking down payments because the market is so hot. If we don't take it, there's 10 people behind us. So if we can keep that money in our account and continue to make interest off of it, the lead time right now, they're telling us 3 to 4 years for a fire engine.
And it's perfect for encumbering money.
Well, it actually is.
Sorry, I mean, that gives you a good,
It
helps you budget for it better. If we can encumber
It is.
$500,000 every year, it still stays in that account, but yeah, I think that's an excellent use.
But what I want to do is earmark that money because like I said several months ago, we could all get hit by a bus tomorrow, but I really want to make sure that that money still gets earmarked because we're still going to need those pumpers. You know, whether or not I'm here, we need fire engines. So that's going to be a board action. I'll work with Mr. Camille to eventually draft up something or other where we can spend that money. And then the other thing, we're working with our auditor, whether or not that's going to show, how we're going to show that either expense or in reviews or in reserves or what. Yeah, so we're going to work on that. Wildland prevention in capital, we are going to spend about $100 to replace the crew carrier. It's timed out on our vehicle replacement schedule. 10 years, 100,000 miles. It's time for it to. We're really trying to move to a different model of trading things in where they're actually worth something instead of keeping them until they're falling apart where they're worth $2,000 on a trade-in. We're hoping to get at least half the cost of the replacement on the trade-in now while still a functional unit. We're going to be going to battery-powered saws, which is the next item, which is 30. And then the last is a fairly exciting one. Up at Station 3, our communication tower has a repeater for us, North Fork, JC, all the Front Range. We also, all the Front Range fire departments in the foothills departments, Evergreen, foothills, blah, blah, blah. It's a critical piece of infrastructure. Our generator up there is 20 years old, it's reaching end of life, and it's undersized. Our generator people pointed out that if you were to turn on the heater, open all of the garage doors, and key up the radios, it would probably fail. It was not designed for what it's using. We have a great partnership with Core, the utility company, and through our partnership, and they were remodeling a station, they actually ended up giving us a generator. This would be 80 kVA, which if anybody knows what they do about generators, it's enough to do a lot. It's saved us about $80,000. It's low hours, I think it's about 8 years old. So we have budgeted about 35 for the install, because the thing is we have to go all new, everything from a new gas line, everything else. We're gonna have to do this anyway, whether we buy a new generator or use this one. And that is capital improvement, because we should be able to push that out for another, we're budgeting 35 for it, which is the rough number. Other than that, that's about it. We don't have a lot of it's gonna be kind of standard through the year. There weren't any big changes. I went over it with Director Pixley and Director Woods. So our total expenditures, now this is with the 2.2 for the trucks, it's 7.5, 19, 104. Now, you take out the 2.2 for the trucks that we're not going to actually spend per se, then it goes down to obviously 2.2, so 5 and change. And the total reserves are 4.702, 279, and that's with the 2.2 taken out of it. And that's going to be, again, what we're going to look at over the next couple months, how we can earmark those funds. One of the other reasons that we will be under budget next year is the ambulance we ordered is, again, we're looking at that delivery probably in '25. And again, we didn't want to spend any money. We actually offered, if we wrote a check today, would that move us up in line? And the vendor laughed because there are some big departments down the hill that can write checks for all of them. Nobody is getting ahead in line. So we didn't spend that money, so we're saving that money. Again, I don't want to put any money down so we can keep everything in our account. But that'll be where we'll work with Mr. Camille and I'll work with the board here so we can earmark these funds so we can keep making interest off them. Then when it comes time, we can make those purchases.
That's a straightforward process. In and out.
Any questions for the chief regarding the budget? We've all had a little bit of time to look at it. I think he's addressed the high points that might have given concern. Any questions? Hearing none.
I guess one more bit on that. We did build that with a 5% reduction. You can see that in here, 5.49%. That was our speculation based on some guidance from some legal counsel and kind of talking to people. Once we get our final numbers on January 3rd, then we'll see what it actually looks like. If it's anything like Park, it's going to fall right in line. We'll have to make a few small adjustments, but really it's just going to make an adjustment on that tax revenue line from Jefferson County. It shouldn't be any big ones. If it is a big one, then we've got some toggles in and out that we can make it work. It's not going to be any big changes.
Okay. Again, any questions related to the last statement of the chief?
No, I would just like to remind everybody that budgets are budgets and they can always be amended.
So with that in mind, might I entertain a motion regarding the 2024 budget,
So I spent,
proposed budget, please?
how long did you spend? A couple hours, 3 hours this morning and part of this afternoon going over that. So I've looked at the budget. I'm fine with the budget. So, and I think Greg is also. So I move that the board accept the budget presented by Chief Ware with the understanding that the revenue section may be revised once Jefferson County finalizes its assessed property valuations and thereby requiring further board action at a later date, but before January 10th, 2024.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it. Open discussion.
Did you get all that, Melissa?
If not, I can cut and paste it.
Now's the time for discussion on the motion if you want to go any deeper into the reason, your rationale.
I'm good with my motion as it stands. I don't have anything else to say.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question for John. Can we just approve the budget with the notation that we recognize that the income will change depending on the statement? And barring any, like, could we put a caveat on it to say barring anything over 10% very deviance? To save Jake that, and then we just, the necessary board members come in and sign, because that, I mean, that's what we're doing with my district. They approve the budget, we're gonna fill in blanks, as long as it's within this number and this number, no further action is necessary, and then the president and the treasurer can come back and sign the resolution.
Yeah, so there's been two approaches to districts, and it really comes down to comfort level at this point, given, you know, the changes to the special session bill, that if you're comfortable, you know, as a board with your projections and your budget, you certainly can adopt it. You know, interestingly enough, this has kind of highlighted this, and I've talked with most of our clients as we move through the budget process this year, but it's not uncommon for districts to adopt your budget prior to receiving the final assessed valuations. There's a number of our clients that formally adopt their budgets in November, at the November meeting, and so they don't know necessarily that final. Again, in a typical scenario, you're usually looking at maybe a 0.5%, and, you know, up or down. Clearly we know this year there is a negative component, there's a negative impact to it. So you know you're dealing with a reduction in revenue, and it's a little bit of a moving target. You don't quite know where you land. So in that sense, you're certainly able to approve the budget, as is if you're comfortable with the projections. Again, there is leeway in the special session bill specifically for budget year 2024 that eases the amendment process if the amendment is needed based on the changes to the assessed valuations. So that's kind of the stopgap on the approval side. Or you could ultimately just defer, as I think was kind of being proposed, the final adoption until after you get those final AVs and you know those numbers, and then you just have that meeting in early January before the 10th.
Isn't part of, is it House Bill 23? Isn't there a backfill component though, too?
Yes.
So even though the number you're gonna get is 6-8% less, there's still a backfill component, so it brings us right back up to where we were projected to be. Am I
Yeah.
understanding that correctly?
Yeah, there is a
So-
backfill associated with the special session bill. There's
And
still,
it'll take us up to 100% based off of the first one and the second one because we meet the
right.
criteria.
Kind of the open question on that is timing of when you're actually going to receive that money and available funding. Because there's still kind of this question of how much state funding is actually going to be available and how they end up making those payments and prioritizing the payments. So I mean, yes, it is in there as the plan, but I think that the intent is that likely wouldn't be hitting the district's budget as a hard number until likely the first quarter of '25.
Okay, that's all.
So you're not, it's not like you're gonna get it like a real-time catch-up. My understanding is that they're gonna essentially have to do a calculation and calculate for every district what the difference was.
Between what they thought they would
get and what they got. And then assess funding. And there is a priority for essentially first responder districts.
Yeah, my understanding is the priority is under 300,000 residents and fire and EMS get priority,
Yeah.
so.
And the nice thing about what they drafted in for the fire and ambulance district, health service district ones, is that it's not subject to an assessed value change limit. All the other local governments, if you had more than 15% assessed value growth, then you're not eligible. So there is an eligibility there. Again, it's just gonna come down to how much funding the state actually has and then how they internally within that potentially prioritize districts. So again, it is in there as a requirement, but it's still a little bit of a moving target as to what I could say with finality you would get.
So am I interpreting where you're going with this is you would like Director Woods to rescind her motion and to make a motion that we approve the budget in light of the variables?
If I personally, from my position, am comfortable with the work and numbers that Jake has presented and the work that you and Director Woods have done, that barring a 10% loss, I'm comfortable with what Jake has presented. I don't feel like we need to approve again later. I'm just trying to streamline
Director Woods,
that.
there's a request that you rescind your I guess, sir.
Point of clarification information for Mr. Camille. If we adopt the budget now, and then we will ultimately have to amend it in several weeks, you say that the legislature has made that amendment process easier. What do you mean easier compared to what?
Yeah.
And what will we have to go through to actually get that done?
And so I guess 2 points there in response to that. It wouldn't necessarily, if you approved tonight and there was a substantial change of 10, 12, 15% that you saw that was surprising enough that required the amendment since you approved tonight, it wouldn't require you to do the amendment prior to January 10th. So you'd have some time to process that, and we could go through the amendment process February, March timeframe realistically. So that, it wouldn't be that truncated timeline. The January 10th is the extended deadline for adopting the 2024 budget and certifying the mill levy. So if you adopt tonight, you take care of that piece, and so that January 10th kind of becomes irrelevant in a way. January 3rd is then the one, that's now the extended deadline for the county to provide the final assessed values. That's typically December 10th. So you can see kind of how things have moved, based on the changes in the bill. And to answer the second part about the procedural component, a budget amendment typically requires the same public hearing process and published notice that adopting the budget does. And essentially what they did is they said, if you have a change that's necessitated by the change to assess valuation in this bill, you can essentially do it by resolution, and you don't have to go through that formal the published notice and public hearing part
Oh,
of it.
okay.
So it's just kind of simplifying the ability to say, the change ended up being larger than we thought, and so this is the amended 2024 budget.
And fundamentally, we wouldn't even have to amend the budget if we come in under budgeted expenses.
Right.
The only time you have to amend the budget is if we exceed expenses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
or if it impacts, like in this case, because typically you're talking about an amendment because you've taken, potentially additional revenue, and you want to spend that revenue in the budget year, right? So if you're going to spend over your appropriation, you have to state in your budget amendment, oh, we had unanticipated revenues and now we want to spend them. In the alternative, you could have a situation where if it was a negative impact enough that it impacted your expenses, and you actually say, we're going to have to reduce our expenses because of the reduction in revenue. That's really what would necessitate the amendment. So that's the other component piece. I mean, there's always kind of wiggle room in the budget. If you have a revenue line item and you end up you come in a little bit low, say you only cannot collect 95%, if you're still able to cover all of your costs and expenses and you're not exceeding your appropriation, there wouldn't really be a necessity to formally amend. You could do a kind of a square up of a budget just through resolution, but it wouldn't necessarily be the formal budget amendment.
And no offense, Director Devaney, but I don't see a problem with saying that we are going to approve it with the caveat that the numbers could change before January 3rd, because we're going to get a new assessed value on January 3rd, and then we have to submit a budget on January 10th.
So I guess I misunderstood, maybe I misunderstood. Are you motioning to just approve the budget as stands, barring the change in the assessed value?
I'm suggesting, based on what I just read, that you will approve the budget that's presented with the caveat that the revenue section will be revised by Jefferson County, and therefore we're saying we approve it, but we're going to submit something at a later date. If that makes any sense.
Okay, so I think we're on the same page then.
I think we are.
Only if we need to submit.
So we need to submit a budget by January 10th.
So
We wouldn't have to if we approve tonight.
Yes, we would. We still.
Just to clarify, so there's adopting and there's submitting.
Right.
yeah, they still have to submit no matter what.
Right.
You're saying, and maybe we're saying the same thing and I'm just not translating. You're fine with approving the budget tonight, recognizing that there will be a change in the projected revenue.
Correct.
Okay, sweet. So,
Possible change.
Possible change. I mean, we don't know if
Can
it's going
we-
to be.
because we're
that's-
not to exceed 10% deviation? Like
I mean, I think the reality is, right, I mean, so if I understood Chief correctly, they have built the current proposed budget on a roughly 5.5%
5.5.
Yes.
reduction.
Right.
So,
Yes.
I mean, ideally, the revenue number that once confirmed by the final AV is going to be right in line with that.
We think so.
And so, but in reality, if you adopt the budget tonight, you approve the budget, even if it's plus or minus 3-4%, you're not going to need to change anything. So you could submit the budget that you adopt tonight as the adopted budget. The only time you formally need to amend the budget is if it's going to impact your appropriation and expenditures.
I apologize, Director Woods. I don't want to do anything to your motion.
Okay.
I want to approve the damn budget
No,
tonight.
and actually, this
And
is
be
a
done with
good
it.
conversation.
Yes.
It's a good discussion, so we're all better informed.
Go forth and budget.
I think, to be clear, I think it's fine to acknowledge this year that there is that contingency, but again, from a comfort level basis, it's really the projection. I would be more concerned if there was no adjustment in the projected budget. If you were kind of saying, hey, this is the preliminary values, this is what we're budgeting at, particularly if you're budgeting to expend all that money, you're putting yourself in a difficult position there.
Right.
But if you forecast it appropriately, then ultimately what you can do, you can approve the budget. Budget typically, again, even in December timeframe, if it's early December, a lot of times are still estimates of, the final values. So that, plus or minus a few percentage points isn't going to require you to submit something different. You would still submit the adopted budget, and ultimately then throughout that budget, you would assess if there's an amendment that was necessary.
One last point of information is the portion of the motion that says that may thereby requiring further board action at a later date, but before January 10th. If I read that correctly, January 10th needs to be struck.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this
That's when
point,
it's
you're
due.
essentially you have a motion to adopt the budget.
Yeah, I think that's what threw me.
Well, we have a motion to adopt the budget, but, and it does include a reduction, what we think it's going to be. But I guess my question is, what if they come through with more than we have submitted? I mean, because we don't even submit it until the 10th of January.
So if they come through with, we get more or we,
We get more.
as long as Jake doesn't spend it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, that, again,
If
that
Jake
goes
wants
back.
to spend it, then we have to amend the budget, which all we have to do is do it before we approve the audit. Like, I mean,
So
that's,
let's just double check. The motion written as is appropriate, or does it need to be changed to adjust for the fact that we are not coming back before January 10th?
I don't want to come back.
Exactly.
I don't think you want to come back.
So,
Well,
again, my point is that we can accept the budget with the caveat, and this, I'm speaking more as a point of information, looking for clarity. If I was to ask you to rescind your motion and to restate a motion that we approve the budget as presented with the possibility that it could be changed at a later date, something that simple, because we have the statute that allows for us to do that. We don't have to come back by January 10th for further board action, and we've acknowledged what Jake and what Chief Ware and his staff has done, and we can reevaluate later, because we don't have a crystal ball. That's what I'm
yeah.
asking. Is that appropriate in something in that fashion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Director Woods, I respectfully ask that you rescind that
Okay, I'll rescind it.
motion, and then could you,
Try it again.
yeah.
So, I'm
What
going
Craig said?
to make the motion that we approve the budget as presented by Chief Ware tonight, with the understanding that if there's substantial changes, we have to come back and
At a later
at a
date.
later date.
So moved.
Okay.
Yes, second.
Good.
Cool.
Sorry.
Discussion on the
That's
motion.
okay. Nope.
Discussion on the motion.
Did it already.
Last time, discussion on the motion. Call the question. Do you want to read that real quick, Melissa?
I'm still trying to write it.
Okay.
Would you want to repeat it? Please, please.
I move that the board accept the budget as presented by Chief Ware, with the understanding that if there are substantive changes, we will come back at a later date. But we approve it tonight as it is. Is that, cool? That's what I was trying to say, so.
I like it. Awesome. Thank you, Sharon.
Okay,
I just don't want to come back here on the 5th, or before the 10th,
Okay.
or on the 5th.
okay,
Motion's read. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? That motion passes. All right, that takes us into new business. First item in new business is a resolution discussion. I'm making the resolution for public censure, or a resolution for public censure of Board Member Chuck Newby. Whereas the Board of Directors of the Oak Creek Fire Protection District desires to publicly censure various actions of Board Member Chuck Newby. Is there a second?
So moved. Second.
Discussion on the resolution. As the maker of the resolution, I've asked this board to behave in a manner that fits and that fits the bylaws and benefits the community. I have great stress over your actions as of late, Director Newby, and I appreciate some of the things that you have attempted to in the near future, and I think that there is a possibility that we can build bridges. But I am obligated from those that we represent to move forward with a public censure, and I ask my fellow board members to vote in favor of this resolution. Any other discussion on the resolution?
Yeah, what are you charging me with specifically?
Okay.
Mr. Pixley, Director Pixley.
All right. Whereas Board Bylaw 2.3H states that once a board member has voted on an issue, the director shall not take any actions that would create barriers or otherwise impede the director's ability to implement the board's decision. Whereas Board Bylaw 3.2J further provides that the smooth working of the district is a team effort. All individuals should work together in a collaborative process to assist each other in conducting the affairs of the district. The board functions as whole, and individual directors have no authority to speak on behalf of the board of the district, or to bind the district through their individual actions or statements. And whereas Board Bylaw 3.7 states that a director is prohibited from taking personal advantage of a situation to benefit himself or herself or prejudice the district. And whereas the district, as well as the district directors and employees, is subject to the Fair Campaign Practices Act, specifically Statute 1-45-118 CRS, which prohibits the district or any district resources from being used in any campaigning for or against a local referred measure. And whereas by majority vote of the Board of Directors, the district previously referred two measures to the district voters and also approved an intergovernmental agreement and resolution related to the proposed consolidation of the district with two neighboring districts. And whereas beginning on or about September 6, 2023 and continuing through November 2023 election process, Director Newby repeatedly used the district's logo and name in campaigning or otherwise speaking against the district's proposed consolidation. And whereas such actions were contrary to the previous majority votes of the Board of Directors, put the district at risk for allegations of campaign finance violations and were against the best interest of the district. And whereas censure by a public body is a collective judgment of stern condemnation of one of its members for behaviors or actions that violate laws, policies, or bylaws, it is also a public act of disapproval of that member's unacceptable conduct. Now, therefore, let it be resolved. I'll read that after if the resolution is passed. Discussion on the resolution.
Yeah, so are we sitting as a court of law? Are you're sitting in judgment against me? Is that what we are doing here? So I've never seen this. Nobody has ever discussed this with me. So this is an ambush action. So you can do anything you wish. You can make any kind of allegation you wish. And now you're saying that I don't have a right to defend myself, to have my own counsel here to represent me or represent myself. This is just what you've decided that you want to do to a fellow director? What if it was you, Mr. Pixley, sitting in my seat here?
I wouldn't
Being
have done what
censured.
you did.
You wouldn't what?
I wouldn't have done what you did.
True.
Well, everything that you accuse me of here is
Wrong by you.
wrong. It's
It was
absolutely
wrong.
false.
That's the reason why we're
It's
bringing it up.
absolutely false what you've alleged here.
How
And
can it be false?
and it is despicable on your part, despicable behavior. And yes, you are a hero to these guys.
They're
But each and every one of you here that votes yes to censure me, look at yourself in the mirror.
I will.
Look at yourself right now.
Absolutely, I'll look at myself.
Look
in the
at
mirror.
what you're doing.
Yes.
So
You
Director
are-
Doby, if you're
You
speaking.
are, Mr. Pixley, you are disregarding the will of the voters.
No.
No.
There is
not at all.
no behavior here that is not strictly 100% legal. The use of the logo is absolutely fair use.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely it is.
Wrong.
It absolutely, no.
All right,
So,
You guys have
real
no
quick,
idea.
real quick,
This is a
Director Doby
discussion
has an
among the board.
opportunity to
Yeah, I have
speak
an
against the,
opportunity to speak and
against
to
the
defend
resolution.
myself. Yeah.
Is that all?
So let's go down your allegations one by one.
We did.
So
I think
once
everything
the
is-
board has, no, let's go through it.
Okay.
So once the board has voted on an issue, directors shall not take any actions that will create barriers to otherwise impede and so forth and so on. Well, that's in a bylaw. It's not a law, it's a recommendation. It's not binding on me, and it's not binding on you. And furthermore, even if it was binding on me, I took actions to impede consolidation because I told you from the very beginning that you were going about the entire consolidation discussions, lack of outreach, your push-pull, your whole, spending $100,000 of taxpayer money.
Hey, we didn't spend that much.
Oh, yeah, you did.
No, we did
And we
not.
don't know
No, we
what
did not.
we don't know. The public doesn't know what
I'm
you
gonna make
spent.
the statement that we did not spend
Well,
$100,000.
show me the receipts.
Your next station.
Show me the receipts. Show me the
I
receipts.
call the question.
The intentions of
No,
bylaws
no, I
are
have a right to defend
The
myself.
question has
Not-
been called, you spoke against the motion, is, the
So you're not
resolution
going
reads
to
as
go,
such.
you're not going to let me explain and defend myself against each of these,
We
each and
understand
every
that
charge.
you
Are
You're
you?
not
The
defending,
intentions
you're
of
not.
bylaws are to be, the intentions of bylaws.
No,
So,
it's okay.
sir, please.
It's okay.
You cannot speak.
The,
This is a
the
discussion.
bylaws are the
clearly
binding
state-
document of
We're not a
this
court of
board.
law.
They're intended to
Actually,
be
the
binding.
question has been called.
Yes.
The
No,
resolution reads as a public censure board director Chuck Newby.
so you're not
Whereas the
going
board
to
of
let me
directors
explain.
of the Elk Creek Fire Protection
You're not
District
gonna let me
desires to
defend
publicly
myself.
censure various
So
recent
this is
actions of
America?
board member Chuck Newby. All in favor?
Unbelievable.
Aye.
Unbelievable.
Against?
You people are despicable. You
Abstain.
are despicable.
That motion passes 4-0, because I did not hear anybody vote against it.
Yeah, no, of course not.
All right.
Of course I vote no.
Now, therefore,
Are you
be
kidding
it
me?
resolved by the Elk Creek Fire Protection District's Board of Directors that the board does hereby censure, disavow, and formally express its disapproval of board member Chuck Newby's conduct as described above. The board does hereby direct Director Newby to properly perform the duties ascribed as a board member and to faithfully honor the oath and bond of directors pursuant to Board Bylaws 3.3, and to cease from engaging in unauthorized conduct as a board member and comply with all applicable laws, board policy, regulation, and bylaws. Adopted and approved today, 14th December 2023. Next item on the new business is board meeting and packet delivery. Now, real quick, before we get into that, we have ensured that we are not in need of rescheduling or.
I know,
Okay, so.
I'm not bringing
All right,
that,
perfect.
I was willing to take that in as part of the conversation, but what I really want to do is have a conversation about board packet delivery and moving the board meeting. I have, since I started in May, and even prior to that, when I was on as temporary ad hoc board member, I am not, it is unprofessional for me to be able to accurately and honestly understand and speak to items in a board packet that I get 24 hours before a board meeting.
What are you asking?
I want the board packet on the Friday before the meeting.
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
I want, and that means a complete board packet, not a piecemeal board packet. And I understand that that your staff is under constraints because it's the second Thursday. So I am totally okay, and it's up to the rest of the board as well, to officially move the date to a later date and time to make it easier on you. But I've asked, I've begged, I've pleaded, I've cajoled. I will not accept a board, it's unacceptable.
Do you think, Chief, that it would benefit maybe the staff to push back the board meeting 1 week to go to the third Thursday of each week? Or could there be systemic changes that would be implemented?
I mean, some of the challenges, financials, obviously. Yeah, the second Thursday is a challenge for a number of reasons, but I mean, a lot of times, Barb does send out any changes or updates to the board packet, and then we get them trickling in and moving forward. We kind of tried to do that, the last time we brought this up, and we sent out the board packet, we were trying to send it out that Thursday, but we didn't get any changes. Then on Tuesday, we get some updates and changes.
Then it doesn't happen.
Well, it kind of put us in an awkward spot with that component of getting something on that date. So I can appreciate that, and we'll do our best with it. I mean, financials, again, are a challenge, as well as some of our reports with, closing out the end of the month.
I usually have the financials done before the board meeting.
No, yes, you do. Okay. It's trying to get it the week before. So if we deliver a completed board packet on the first Thursday of the month, that means we close out, so depending on how the weekend falls or something, or there's 1 or 2 days.
Very well could be the second or even the first, and I understand that.
And that it's a challenge, and I know we haven't done great with it.
Which is why I want to move the meeting. I want to give you more time and your staff more time. I want to give Sharon more time to do her work. It matters not to me if it's on the second or third or fourth Thursday, but this is not working. It's not working for the board, it's not working for you guys, it's not working for the public. We're not able to provide a completed packet for everybody to understand.
Okay.
So,
if I may, I think Barb might be able to provide a little bit of insight for us.
The reason for any kind of delay is that the board packet involves multiple people.
Absolutely.
So it's not just the financials that are late. It is a component of all of the aspects of that board packet. Moving it out 1 more week doesn't matter because everybody knows when it's due. So it's the time constraints that those people have to provide the information to me to include it into the board packet. And that includes agenda items, which I've multiple times have asked for and not gotten anything for it until the week of. So if you want to push out, that's great, with the understanding that it's probably still going to happen.
No, what I'm saying is that we decide as a board when the meeting is, when the packet goes out, and when the deadline is for Barb and for the chief.
Okay.
And anything that comes after that deadline doesn't go in. It doesn't get voted on,
Goes in the next board meeting.
it goes to the next board meeting.
Right.
As long as everybody's good with that, because like Barb says, I mean, and it puts us in an awkward spot when somebody has something on that Tuesday, and we send it on Thursday, any agenda items, and it's crickets. And we usually giggle on Monday, I was like, oh, what'd you get? And she's like, "Oh, nothing." And then we put it together, and we send out the generic agenda, then on Tuesday, things start coming in, then somebody sends something else.
It's just as much us as it is
Well,
process.
And as long as everybody's okay with that. If, you know, it comes in on a Tuesday, it's not happening, we will do our best, and we will have it to you on the Thursday before the board meeting.
I mean, Thursday or Friday, do you not work on Fridays or?
No.
Okay, I'm fine with the Friday before, that gives me the weekend and some time to process it. And I personally, if I didn't get my shit together to get it to you in time, then shame on me. And I know I've been guilty of that. But that's not fair. It's not fair to Barb, it's not fair to you, it's not fair to us, it's not fair to them.
As long as everybody's good with that, then
Yeah.
we'll probably send out agenda items on that Monday. Or, you know, the first, somewhere around there.
Do the first Monday of the
Yeah,
month.
and that will be it, and as long as everybody's good with, if it's not in by Friday, it doesn't happen.
We're all to blame.
I think, you know,
To assist all of us, we need to take our share of responsibility with this
Absolutely.
to assist with Barb, so.
and we'll make it work.
We don't need a motion for this, I think we just need an agreement that we will all have
Well, do
all
you-
agenda items in by Friday prior to.
But this doesn't address my concern about the financials. Because if the first is on a Thursday, are you going to be able to flip the you're not gonna be able to flip the financials for us. If your bank accounts don't close out till Wednesday, you will not be able to get the financial statements
It
ready.
does depend on when the closing of the month happens.
Clarify that real quick.
So if it happens over a weekend, I won't be able to do the financials until the Monday or Tuesday after that. If that is the week of the board meeting, that allows Director Boyd's only 2 or 3 days to look at the financials.
That's part of my point, is if the first is on a Thursday, bank statements didn't close until Wednesday night, you don't get your stuff, things don't get reconciled, and you have less than 24 hours to turn a report so that the board packet can go out.
But what's included in the packet is a report that Barb prints. Okay, my presentation and analysis is done, I'll post that. In other words, I don't have my presentation in the packet.
Correct.
Just basically presented at the board meeting. So what you're talking about is moot.
Okay.
Okay? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because it does, because
Yeah.
Because the
we're the
analysis.
second Thursday. So you're not saying change the board meeting, you're just saying get the packet sooner.
If it means changing the board meeting, I'm fine with that.
But
I
don't
want the
think
packet
it's-
sooner,
Yeah,
period.
But if you get the packet the Friday before the meeting, okay,
Which very well could be on the second.
which very well could be, but the report will already be printed, right, Barbara? The ledger report that you include in the packet will already be printed.
Yeah, I finished up the packet or the financial report.
So your financial reports, even if the second falls on that Friday, you're gonna have your reports. They're gonna be in the packet.
Yeah.
So the financials will be there. My presentation won't be in there, it never is, because I do it at the board meeting. Just so you know, I can't turn that around in 24 hours.
February, May, and August will be issues, potentially.
Thank you. I love how you knew where I was going.
Why?
February, May, those are gonna be tight terms. August will be super tight. October's not nice.
But you're just talking about getting the packet out, right?
Yes,
Okay.
but I want a complete packet. I want the minutes, I want the financials, I want all of it together.
Well, the financials that are in the packet are a report that comes out of the ledger. That's all it is. And it's just a matter of pushing the right button.
Oh, no.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
Well, I mean, but that's the thing, I would never expect my staff, when we push out 3 packets a month, I would never expect them to have it the way you are being expected to turn it. That's why I am suggesting that we move the meeting to the 3rd Wednesday of the month. Because I don't think, as an operations and administrative manager, I don't think what I'm asking of Barb is fair. It doesn't give her enough time. What if something happens? What if she's sick? What if Jake's sick? It doesn't give enough of a spread. Move it to the 3rd week. Doesn't have to be Thursday, I don't care. Okay, it has to be Thursday. Huh? You don't
I
like the
have
3rd?
no problem with the 3rd week.
What about the 4th one?
Do you have any issues with that?
No issues with the board.
What about the 4th Thursday for you?
Thursday's fine, but I have
4th
to take.
Thursday?
Well, why not the 3rd?
Because it's hard for Melissa.
Okay.
What about the 4th Wednesday, the 4th Thursday, Joe?
That's fine.
Any issues with moving the meeting? I move that we move the meeting.
Elk Creek Fire, the Elk Creek Fire.
Aw. I motion that we move the board meeting for the Elk Creek Fire Protection District to the 4th Thursday of every month, starting effective January 1, 2024.
There's a motion made to adjust the board meeting scheduling. Is there a second?
Sure, second.
All right, discussion on the motion. There's been plenty so far related to the rationale why. Is there discussion for or against the motion so that each director will be able to hear the concerns of others?
As a financial person, okay, I don't have an objection to your motion, because I supported it, right? But I'm just gonna say that as a financial person, reporting on the 4th Thursday of the month following the close is kind of weird. Just because we're already almost done with the current month. So the numbers that we're reporting are old, they're stale. That's only my issue.
They're stale regardless, and I mean,
They're more stale.
they're crusty.
They're crusty. So I don't have an, I'm fine if we want to switch it to the 4th Thursday. Just understand that, you know,
It's so much easier for Melissa. I think it will,
it's fine.
Jake, what is the staff opinion of that?
Well, I mean, I think it will definitely make it easier. It'll be a lot easier to close out those months, especially those tight months. It's a challenge for reports for my numbers as well as Barb's hustling to get things in on the tight months. I think the bigger thing will be as long as board members are good with, if it's not in by Friday, it is not a thing.
I think you need to push a date back.
Because we will, Thursday.
It is to me by
Yeah.
Thursday.
So, yeah, in by Thursday and pack it on Friday?
Yes.
You know, we will do that,
3rd Thursday.
but
Third Thursday,
Yes.
and by the 3rd Thursday.
yeah, and I think it's gonna be a lot easier for all of the statistical stuff to get buttoned up from the month before. That's really gonna smooth that out. And as long as everybody's good with it, I think from a staff point, we can do it. You know, I think it'll make it easier. I think it's much more realistic. And then maybe the other thought is, if we do have business that needs to be done, it doesn't come in, it will be addition or deletion to the agenda on the day of.
Well, and I
Versus,
think that's kind of expected always. There's always emergencies or.
Right.
well, versus, you know, coming in on Tuesday or Wednesday saying we need to have this.
Right, in other words, it doesn't go on the agenda until the day of the meeting.
Correct, yeah.
Right, which is,
If it has to happen, it has to
it
happen.
happens.
I mean, there are
Time.
things. Yeah, I think it'd be a lot easier for us. And we can do it.
Okay.
We'll do it.
Is there always a fourth Thursday? I got so ignorant.
Yeah, there is.
There always is always.
You always get a fourth Thursday. Sometimes you get a fifth one, but not very often.
Oh, this is gonna interfere with Thanksgiving, I think.
It will interfere with Thanksgiving, which we can adjust back a week or forward a week. So I have a board that meets on the third Thursday and one that meets on the fourth Wednesday. And on those days, you just look at the holidays, and if, Jake, if you can prepare a schedule of meetings, adjusting for anything that's gonna fall on a holiday,
Okay.
like Thanksgiving, adjusting it, depending on where it is, adjusting it forward or backwards.
Yeah,
Sometimes the 4th of July falls on the first day. Next year it is, but
Probably not the 4th.
But not the fourth.
There's only Thursdays in the week.
If you could prepare a schedule of
Yeah.
meetings for us
Yeah,
for
we'll do it.
January.
Yeah, so we'll come up with a tentative schedule that we have to make sure you guys are into that, because yeah, there will probably be some holidays that we'll have to budge back and forth.
so in January, we are not meeting until the 4th
If the
Thursday in
motion
January.
passes.
If the motion passes.
So are we doing the 4th or the 3rd?
The fourth.
4th Thursday.
4th Thursday.
Mhm. 4th Thursday. You made the motion?
I did.
I seconded it.
You did.
Mhm.
Greg, do your thing.
Greg, yeah.
Call the
Get
question.
with the program, man.
Call the question. You want to read the motion again?
I motion that we move the board meeting for the Elk Creek Fire Protection District to the fourth Thursday. Oh shit, sorry.
Pension
John,
board?
does the fourth Thursday work for you to occasionally attend? Or do you have shit?
I'm on board. No, yeah, I think that should be fine.
Okay,
We
thank
can
you.
always make it work.
Okay, awesome. I motion that we move the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board meeting to the fourth Thursday of the month, commencing January 2024, with the time start of 6 p.m.
Will, in
I'm
that
gonna second the
motion,
Yes.
Okay.
as a point of clarification in that motion, do we need to address the pension board?
Yes.
We'd
Are
like
they
to-
here?
We would like to keep it the same.
Well, I think they just ran off. Colt did, didn't he?
He was there. No, we talked about it, and we wanted to separate our pension board meeting from your board meeting. Too much drama you guys have.
Okay,
So ours is,
can we hold ours via Zoom then, the pension board meeting?
I think that's the new bylaw. The new bylaws passed. When the new bylaws passed, we get John?
Can we hold it via Zoom as the records, as the bylaws stand?
I'd have to go back and look at the current bylaws. I think that was one of the additions, was to squarely say that you could. I mean, now technically,
By state statute.
it's implied by state statute now, so I mean, I think you could, in that sense, because it's compliant with the open meetings law. But, so you're thinking for the January meeting essentially? I mean, the other thing, we'd have to just check is, sometimes it's just a quorum has to be physically present. So that might be the way to get through the first meeting. We'll just have to double check the language.
Or we can always make a motion if the pension board meeting
Yeah.
wanted to mirror.
Okay, so this is just for the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors to move the meeting to the, yeah. So that's my motion.
Without the timestamp, because if we do a meeting.
Yeah,
Let's restate the motion one more time, so everybody's on the same page.
I motion that we move the board meeting for the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors to the fourth Thursday of the month, barring any conflict with holiday.
Commencing
Commencing in January.
Commencing January 2024.
And I'm gonna second the motion again, or third, or whatever it is.
All right. Any other discussion on the motion? Yes, sir.
What are we doing about the pension board meetings?
So the pension board meetings will be addressed in January and
On the 11th at their meeting.
on the 11th. So when we get back together, there will be the possibility that, well, depending upon if the board and the trustees approve the change, there could be a motion to change.
So if this motion tonight passes, when will we meet next?
January 11th, because the pension board has their meeting set for January 11th.
Will that be a board meeting and a pension meeting?
No, just a pension meeting.
Just a pension meeting, okay.
And then the regular pension board meeting will be the last Thursday. Yeah.
And John, you
I mean, the regular-
realize that people.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Double check.
Yeah, that just be, I think you have to have a meeting
I'm sorry.
the mill levy.
Oh. We need to second the mill levy.
So commencing in February 2024.
Can't we just,
Was that part of your budget proposal?
wasn't that part of the budget?
Yeah, 12.5 million was part of the budget.
Yeah, it was part of the budget, but it wasn't a separate line item. Because I think in the past, we actually approved, wasn't there a bill? Wasn't there a set resolution to set the mill levy? And that was not part of this.
Okay.
Our original plan to do that was when we talked about full circle hours ago, the January meeting, when we were gonna have that meeting before the 10th.
Okay.
Because it's a resolution to set the mill levy, I believe, correct? Yeah,
So, okay, okay,
yeah.
commencing February 2024. Our next board meeting will be January 11th.
Okay.
Yes.
But that still doesn't address the mill levy.
Because we still have the 10th
Okay.
deadline.
I wanted January 2024. We will address the mill levy separately in another motion. Can we do that? Can we do that?
Do that.
We can do that with mill levy. Okay. Can we just vote on the motion?
We can't do it tonight.
Yeah, we can, but just not right now.
Can we vote on moving this thing?
So,
All right, so there was a motion made in the regular directors meeting for the fourth Thursday of each month, starting January 1, 2024.
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? That motion carries.
Okay. How do we have to ratify the mill levy? Can I make a motion to ratify the mill levy as presented by Jefferson County and Park County on January 3rd?
So you just set the mill levy. So I mean, we can, basically, you can direct, you can approve or authorize setting the mill levy at 12.5, which is what I understand is in the budget. And direct a resolution to be drafted in accordance with that motion. And that, we can process it that way.
And that will work, so then we won't have to have a special meeting to approve that? Okay, perfect.
The only thing you'll miss is the abatements. We don't know until the final numbers come to Jefferson County. It's a small component.
Right, and that, but those are always, that adjustment happens, you never set your mill levy based on abatements.
In our past practice.
Okay.
Now, if we need to improve that practice, that's.
Yeah, typically you would just set the voter approved mill levy, so 12.5. The abatements are an annual adjustment that happens every year based on that final levy. So similarly, what we talked about, a lot of times folks approve their budget and set their mill levy prior to getting the final levies. And there's actually a statute that allows for adjustments for the abatements to not be considered a tax increase if it's a permanent adjustment in the tax year. So.
What did he say? I motion to ratify the mill levy as presented at 12.5 mils and request a resolution be drafted in accordance with statute.
Well done.
Nice work.
A second on that motion?
Second that motion.
All right, discussion. Discussion? Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, then, against? That motion carries.
So that takes care of you guys. That takes care of all of our state statute requirements. That takes care of the budget,
Yes.
takes care of the board packet. You got all the motions?
Got it.
Yes, I got you.
Christmas for you. All right, any other new business? Any other new business? All right, we'll go to our final public comment for the night.
Can I go first? I have an email from
Yes, you can.
unless I don't know.
No, go ahead.
It'll go fast, I
Yeah.
promise.
What was the name of the individual?
Um,
And please clarify what happened here.
Mr. Seymour, Tom Seymour, who is a resident of the district, emailed me earlier. He emailed the whole board, but I told him that I would read his statement for him. First, he would like to. Okay, so here's what it says. I had intended to be at the Elk Creek meeting in person tonight, but have decided to show some discretion and not share my cold or flu with the rest of you. First, I want to personally say thank you to the Elk Creek responders who came to my house on Thanksgiving. Your compassion and assistance on that day were greatly appreciated. So I don't know who responded to Mr. Seymour's call on Thanksgiving, but if you could pass that along to them, Jake.
Yeah.
Okay, and then for the rest of his statement, growth in Conifer is inevitable, sustainable growth should be the goal. It is very apparent that Elk Creek Fire Department requires additional support and resources from the community. The recent vote provides proof that the fire department is supported by numerous entities and that Elk Creek has specifically requested additional revenue for EMS services, firefighters, and replacement of aging equipment and facilities. Those requests have been heard and need to be addressed and supported. The community and the taxpayers in return should expect transparency and support. That support may not coincide with the motives of the Jefferson County politicians. Increased costs incurred by new development needs to be the responsibility of the developer, not the taxpayers. Businesses and developers must include the costs to the community and businesses and developers must include the costs to the community and taxpayers and be included in the cost of doing business. Each new development needs to be evaluated not only on the square footage of the buildings, but the associated services that are required from Elk Creek Fire Department. A bakery in an existing strip mall, for example, requires far less services than a recreation facility with the same footprint. The cost is not discriminatory or targeting a developer. It's the reality of providing the necessary services to a commercial client. The change in zoning may in fact change the services required of Elk Creek Fire Department and should be published by the department as a consistent advisement regarding development to Jefferson County. Jefferson County is not intimately aware of conditions in the area served by Elk Creek Fire. Conditions, mill levies, and services are not consistent within Jefferson County. Impact fees may be a necessity for sustainable growth. That's from Mr. Seymour.
All right, Mr. Seymour, take that into consideration. Next is Mr. Ken Hutchinson. Did I say that right, or is it Hutchins? Hutchinson? Thank you, sir.
Ken Hutchinson, 29547 Sunset Trail High. I'd like to talk to you about I am doing the building of the Vance Trust property at on the south side of Aspen Park. It's 14 lots. I have put in 32,000 gallons of water storage, and I am being required to do water storage and sprinkler system in every house even though it's within the 1,000 feet of the water storage. And I'd like, rather than do both, I'd like to do like your policy says, you do one or the other. So I'd like to get some relief and just do what the Elk Creek Fire policy states as of April 21st, 1920.
April 21st,
2020, excuse me.
Okay.
2020, not 1920.
It's like, well, we need to go up this year.
Is that something, Mr. Hutchins, that we would be able to discuss and bring back next month? Because we may not be able to help you because of the fire code, but I think we need to be educated on what that might be.
Well, yeah, I'd like to have some discussion with somebody that, so far, everybody just says no, but it's not the same as your policy. I just want to be treated like everybody else.
As we do.
Currently, I gotta do both.
Might we just have him speak to you on the side in a couple of days once you've had
Yeah,
a chance
that's
to read it? Yeah, why don't we do that, and we can expedite an answer to you, sir?
Sure.
Before you leave, we can make sure we get your phone number so that the chief will be able to contact you, and then you guys will be able to have a conversation related to your concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that will take us to Miss Deb Bobs.
Otherwise known as Deb at the Canyon Curry. Just wait. Just wait. I have been with the Canyon Courier for 15 years and covered this board on and off for all of that time. And I just wanted to let you know that I am retiring at the end of this month. And so this is my last meeting with you. Don't worry, they've already replaced me. And she starts on the 1st of January. So now she will see you on the 4th Thursday of the month. So I just wanted to tell you that I have enjoyed my time with you, and I will miss you. Probably won't come just because I feel like coming to a meeting. But thank you all. I have tried to serve the public and this board well, and after 43 years in this business, it's time for me to find something else to do. I don't know what that is yet, but I will find something.
Thank you very much, Deb.
Deb, you will be missed.
All right, next is Mr. Neil Whitehead.
You're gonna move positions, or do I have to do that? Videotape my back? Well, maybe I'll just speak to the camera. To the wider audience.
There's a camera over here, Neil.
Yeah,
Camera right there, which is the reason why I asked you to stand forward.
Whose camera?
It's right
The
here.
owl, right now. That's the Zoom.
All right, how do I do both?
You don't have to, you just need to face the camera right here. This is the one that,
Get the broadcast.
That's the one get broadcast on my mountain town?
No, that's on Zoom.
Well,
It's live. This is live, that'll be posted. So whatever you want.
what do you require?
It matters not, as long as your message is good.
All right, well, this will be a more permanent record, so I want to make sure it's more permanent. I think a great injustice has been perpetrated here to Director Newby. And I would like to briefly discuss the crime of Director Newby. He has placed the interest of the residents of the Elk Creek Fire Protection District above all, as per the oath he took upon assuming office as director. And he has attempted to deal with issues that involve the very survival of Elk Creek Fire Protection District. And that is his overarching thing that he has been through. And he has received a lot of grief for that, but he has maintained the trueness to to his oath regarding the logo. I am a member of the Save Elk Creek Fire group and registered with the Secretary of State. And yes, we did get a cease and desist letter from the attorney from Elk Creek. And we referred the letter to our attorney, and he sent it off to Mr. Shamil, I believe, and we never heard a word back from him. So in our way of thinking, if there was a problem with the use of the logo, and we said we were going to continue to use it, Elk Creek Fire Protection District should have sued us and taken us to court. And so that is a problem.
Yes,
with,
They should have.
so that's a failure. So to use that as a piece for giving him censure is entirely inappropriate. The Fire Protection District should have sued our rear ends off, and they didn't.
It's pending.
Be respectful.
And this is the second ambush move. In that case, my mountain town was more than glad to run the thing so I could address the board, change the camera angle. And Chuck has no notice. The public had no notice on the published thing on the Elk Creek Fire Protection Board website of the meeting. It just said a referral and discussion or whatever it is. I can't remember what it was. So the public got absolutely no notice of what was going on. Chuck got no notice until he was handed it. We got no notice, and this is what I call an ambush. And the residents of Elk Creek Fire Protection District
30 seconds.
Defeated the consolidation and in effect vindicated the efforts of one lone director to save Elk Creek. And so it's going to last at least have a 76th anniversary. And this incessant boo-hooing here is going to be viewed by the public, and that in the fall of 2019, we got 33% no for a mill levy
That's
increase.
time, Mr. Whitehead.
39%.
The next individual will be Mr. Paul Olson.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to come back to the strategic plan. And that was, it's good to hear you talking about doing it. I think your horizon may be a bit too short when you talk about what's the lead time on fire engines now?
One vendor is 3 years and 1 month, and the other is 4 years.
Yeah, you might want to think about extending your planning horizon maybe to 10 years at least. And maybe even more, because this is going to be a problem for a while. The other part is I really like to hear what you said about modeling what's going on. But I'd give you a caveat that models are essentially a black box. And if you don't know what's going on in the black box and you can't calibrate that model to understand exactly what's coming out of that black box, you're fooling yourself. I see a lot of that in the university work I've done. A lot of that in my professional work. They plug, they chug, and they just implement whatever comes out without looking at what that really means. And so you can easily be led astray by the output of the model. It can easily be garbage in and garbage out. So with your model supplier, you better make sure there's a way you can calibrate that or test the model output against the input. Otherwise, you're in trouble, big trouble. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ms. Weinfeld.
I would just like to say that even though there is some criticism by a local minority about how the process has come along, those seem to be matters of perspective and opinion only from those who are not here all the time or involved in these processes. While creating a formal strategic plan may help those criticisms, just remember that you will never be able to please everyone. Chief Ware, you, Chief Rogers, Chief Sherlaw, the majority of this board and the other district boards are doing a great job, and I think you need to hear that more often. When people say things like they want more transparency, like the email you just read, Director Devaney, and I believe somebody else said that earlier, please maybe try to ask them some specifics. This generalized comment keeps getting repeated, yet nothing specific has been identified. And I don't really see people being involved in the process. A dear friend once told me, if you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, always do. So I want to encourage you and Chief, just keep doing. You're doing a great job. Regarding the logo, as your taxpayer, as one of your taxpayers here tonight, I would like to urge Chief Ware and this district board to use funding to go forward with a lawsuit and sue for the use and the damages of not just the use of the logo, but the damages that it caused in manipulating and swaying a public election. Thank you.
Here.
Right, next is Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins, did he
He's
pick up?
online.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
online.
Hello.
Okay.
Are you guys able to
Hello,
hear me
Mr.
okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay. I feel like what I have to say is important. So if you can't hear me, please let me know at any time. My name is Nick Jenkins. I am a B shift lieutenant at Elk Creek, and I am representing nobody but myself when I speak tonight. I hear a lot of words going around like attack and ambush, but I am asking respectfully to speak to Director Newby directly, if he will accept.
Chucky would like to speak to you.
Go ahead, sir. Say your piece.
Yes, sir. I am not hiding behind anything. This has been a very professional meeting. I applaud all of you. I have a short memory, and the last meeting did not sit well with me. What I would like to say is, Director Newby, again, respectfully, I personally witnessed you antagonizing and instigating problems with my firefighters that did not sit well with me, sir. And my question to you is, you have called us not heroes and deplorable and despicable. What is your purpose for being on the board now? If you do not support the members that work for this department and that run the calls, what is your purpose there? What is your place there if you do not respect those that work for the department?
Is that a rhetorical question or do you want an answer?
It's up to you, sir. I would like an answer, but I put that out there. It blows my mind that we have a member that sits on the board that does not respect the members of the fire department. And so I'm asking you why that is.
So I called the behavior of the firefighters and citizens, and also family members who participated in the harassing speech and behavior at the last board meeting on October the 12th. I called their behavior despicable. And their behavior was despicable. And I think everybody in their heart of hearts knows that.
No, you said you call yourself.
So, Mr. Jenkins, does that answer your question? Or do you need more from me?
Actually, Mr. Jenkins, we're gonna cut off this comment.
It actually does not answer my question, sir.
Yes, sir, but we've exceeded our 33 minutes, and out of respect for everybody else, I want to ensure that we're staying within our time frame.
So, Mr. Jenkins,
We're going to stop the public comment for this one now, and we're going to call Mr.
Mr. Jenkins, you can contact me personally, and we can further this discussion.
I suggest you check the recordings, Chuck, because that's not what you said.
That's correct.
Are we starting?
Yes.
Start now.
All right, so what you're going to reap here, Mr. Newby, is anybody's guess, but I predict you're going to reap the whirlwind, and I'm not talking a dust devil, I'm talking about. That is not a threat.
Please.
Sounds like a threat to me.
It does.
It sounds like a.
You are interrupting, please start my time all over again.
Don't threaten me, Mr.
I am not threatening anyone. That is not in my nature, that is very much in yours. Okay, so I would like to read into the record the entire posting that Chuck Newby made on November 6th of 2023. And since I don't have the latitude of making comment in only 2.5 minutes, I'm going to have to do 3 things dramatically. 1, things that are caps, which I assume are emphases, I will say more loudly. Things that are abject falsehoods, I will lower the pitch of my voice. And things which are hypocritical statements, I will raise the pitch of my voice. Anything between the quotes are his words. And I quote, updated, nuisance complaints lodged against Save Elk Creek Fire. I find it interesting that 2 self-appointed members of the pro-consolidation crowd have dishonored themselves and their cause by aggressively lodging nuisance complaints with the Secretary of State Campaign Finance Division against our issue committee and long-standing community advocacy committee in an aggressive but ineffective effort to have an instrument of Colorado state government suppress our political free speech rights. Then in perfect coordination on cue, a different pro-consolidation crowd agitator furthers the harassment scheme by stating on October 12th, the Colorado Secretary of State, that's already been read into the record, I don't need to do that. Then this disingenuous agitator goes on, these are very serious allegations, what is your response to this, and what, if anything, have you done to cure it? Let's just see if any of these harassing allegations stand up to scrutiny. First, the Secretary of State has not accused our issue committee or me of anything. These are merely nuisance allegations lodged by 2 members of the pro-consolidation crowd who have proven themselves to be less than honorable while claiming to be acting in the best interests of the Elk Creek Fire community they claim to serve. Are these the tactics of people who care for their communities? Clearly not. Even more importantly, recent outrageous false statements, questionable executive actions, and blatant misuse of the discretion of the office coming from the executive members of the Elk Creek Fire Board of Directors had led to the deep crisis of leadership that our fire district has fallen into in recent months. Next, the pro-consolidation crowd filers of these nuisance allegations will be happy to know that we have made a robust response to their extremely petty nuisance allegations, end quote.
20 seconds.
This was cross-posted to my posting in Nextdoor with a link that I couldn't follow because I had been blocked, as had several other critics of Mr. Newby. That's adult. Posting was pulled down by complaints by persons about the falsehoods that were embedded in these. There were 10 if you weren't following my pitch. There were 6 hypocrisies. There were 173 words contested.
Thank you very much, and that is noted. Okay, that ends public comment. I will accept the motion to adjourn.
I have my name on the list.
Oh, he did, Al did have his name on the list. I saw it.
Oh, Al,
We skipped it.
I jumped over you. We do have one more public comment. I sincerely apologize.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
No problem. My name is Al Leo. I live at 19293 Silver Ranch Road, and I'm the direct target of an ambush of Mr. Newby, who followed me out of the building, yelling at me. Too bad our Jefferson County Sheriff's deputy wasn't here to see that. Mr. Newby, you did do that.
No, I didn't now.
Yes, you did. There are witnesses.
Stop, please direct your comments to the board.
So the board, Mr. Newby,
I just answered it.
I applaud President Pixley as a citizen of the Elk Creek Fire Protection District and as the specific target of Chuck Newby, one following out at me out of the building. I asked the person closest to the door to hold the door open so his ire at me could be witnessed, and that was done. So I was also one of the vulnerable people in the next door post that Mr. Koch just read. I applaud the board, Directors Baker, Director Devaney, President Pixley, and Director Woods for passing the resolution to censor Director Newby. I expect better from elected officials to be followed out of a board meeting for standing up for my voice and for other citizens of this district. I expect more from elected officials on this board of directors. And thank you very much, President Pixley, for bringing that resolution to the table and to the board for passing it. I have been a target of Mr. Newby. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, again, my sincere apologies, Mr. Leo. I don't know how I jumped over you, but at this time, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? All right, that motion passes at 9:19.